What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 4th Avenue open black lens bracket 066 close black lens bracket Whitebeard beats 100,000 Marine. Whitebeard stood alone at the front of the Moby Dick, and behind him, a total of 14 captains also stood in place. From the 1st Captain Marco to the 16th Captain Yizang, the mainstay of the entire Whitebeard pirates gathered on the deck. This is the absolute power from the entire White group. This group of Marines really spent all their money to deal with us. The endless Marine soldiers in front of them are estimated to be close to 100,000. Jozu looked around, and there were Marineford soldiers in front of him. So what if there are too many people? Anyone who dares to bully our Whitebeard pirates, hit them. Said the violent Captain 7. They don't really think that the elite Marines like light frequency can stop us. Captain 13 sneered. The strength of all the captains on their side. Almost all are between Vice Admiral and Admiral, and has a full 14 people. Plus Whitebeard, who is known as the strongest man in the world and has the strongest fruit. More than 100,000 Marines. Not too much, 4 emperors of the New World. It's not just as simple as clamoring, they have absolute background and absolute strength. Their daddy Whitebeard. Back then, it was the existence that competed with people like Roger Garp Golden Lion. On the execution stand, when Ace saw the appearance of Haki in the Whitebeard pirate group and ignored the enemy when he went straight to Longton for such a reckless self. He was completely moved by Baituan's behavior, but it is because of emotion. The guilt in my heart is increasing, especially after hearing the phrase, "Daddy is here to save you." He was even more distressed. I was crying so hard. Ace closed his eyes in pain, crying uncontrollably, "Dad, I'm sorry." The sound of his wailing, resounding through Marineford. The voice is full of crying, helplessness, bewilderment, guilt, and the last trace of uneasiness. Heartbreaking. Gu la la la. However, Ace's desperate voice was exchanged for Whitebeard's smile. "Little Ace. 313. Don't be afraid, you are my son, no matter what, I will take you away from Marineford today." Even in the face of 150,000 Marines, the gap is tens of times, and the Marshal, Admiral, and everyone at the top of the Marines are there. Whitebeard was also the first to comfort Ace, then. Whitebeard went on to say, "My sons, tell these ignorant Marines in front of you, what will happen to those who dare to touch us? What else can happen? It's inevitable that I can't escape a death sentence." Vista pulled out his double knives and said, "Those who moved us, you are setting yourself on fire." Joe said calmly, "Ace, you will always be our brother." That's right, today let these ignorant Marines take a look at what is the anger from the 4 emperors. Destroy all these Marines. Kill them. The other team leaders are also high-spirited. Everyone drew their weapons. Everyone has a fierce look on their faces. All of them are veterans of many battles. At this moment, the ferocious pirate aura is released one after another. The momentum was monstrous, the shouts broke the sky, the movement caused a sensation in the sea, and enveloped Marineford, making countless people tremble with fear. These elite Marines are of course good in strength, and their organizational skills are also very strong. It can be boiled down to the bottom line, but it's just flowers in the greenhouse. Those who actually participated in the war were very few. Baituan is different here. Accept challenges from pirates from all over the New World for many years. Mixed in fighting and looting. Everyone is a generation who has experienced hundreds of battles, and they are all ruthless characters who have come out of the mountain of corpses. This aura contrasts. Even if the enemy outnumbers me 10 times. They are also unafraid. Marine here. There are indeed many soldiers who participated in the war for the first time. Although it has been prepared for a long time. But this first battle is to face Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, the leader of the 4 emperors, and the Whitebeard pirates, the strongest pirate group. Plus Whitebeard came up and overwhelmed people in a blowout style. The Marine soldiers were inevitably a little apprehensive. Standing on the execution platform, Sengoku naturally noticed the Marine soldiers who were already a little scared. Courtesy of Whitebeard. The fighting confidence that was finally gathered was destroyed by Whitebeard. The title of the strongest man in the world is indeed very bluffing. When you come up, you will overwhelm people with power. Whitebeard. You are as difficult as ever, but, all of this is expected by Sengoku. From the beginning. The 2 sides have already started the game. This time, but it was Whitebeard who took the lead. Good. The reason why Whitebeard did this was because he also saw the sea of stars in front of him. Although his face was calm, Whitebeard's heart was slightly alert. Thanks to Sengoku, in order to deal with his own Whitebeard pirates. He really spent his money, looking at the Marine soldiers who were already terrified. Whitebeard took another step forward. A white light appeared in his hand, and the power of shock fruit was pinched by Whitebeard in his hand. He punched it out. Crunch, there was a crackling sound in the air. The airwaves continued one after another, and the earth-shattering power was released from Whitebeard's hands. Like a scourge, out of nowhere in an instant, this moment. The entire Marineford was shaking violently, and some Marine soldiers standing upright also retreated and fell to the ground one after another. The aftermath of this shock fruit affected every soldier. 3 Admiral, Sengoku, Garp, Vice Admiral and Shichibukai were all shocked. How many years? It's been years since they've seen the power of shock fruit. Now see it again. Everyone was shocked. Although this Whitebeard is not as old as before, his strength is not inferior to that of his peak period. They directly felt the berserk power coming from the impact. Suddenly, someone suddenly discovered that after Whitebeard cast shock fruit, in front of their Marineford Bay, the seawater has started to ebb. Low tide. This is how the same thing. While the soldiers were pondering why such a bizarre phenomenon occurred. On that sea. On the calm sea surface, huge waves with a height of hundreds of feet suddenly appeared. The impact of huge waves, driven by the vibration of the seawater, they felt like an earthquake in Marineford. Even some flimsy buildings. At this moment, it collapsed directly under the shaking of the 100-meter-high tsunami. See. Tsunami. Why did the tsunami come? Countless Marines' eyes almost popped out. To know. They are now 150,000 elite, all gathered in front of this Marineford Square. This terrain. It is only a high platform more than 10 meters high. A 100-meter tsunami hits Marineford. All soldiers on Marineford will be destroyed. Whitebeard. He wanted to make a big effort to smooth the rhythm of this war. Escape. The soldiers can't care about any Marine military regulations at the moment. Must escape. If you don't escape your life, you will be gone. But, this Marineford is such a high place. The 100-meter-high tsunami was so fast that it rushed towards us. Where can this escape to? Face off against the strongest men in the world, against giants like Whitebeard standing on top of the mountain. They are nobodies. What to challenge? Marines' morale is in disarray. Everyone is so scared that they can't lift the heart to fight. Have to say, in terms of the strategy of the big trend, Whitebeard can be said to have fully demonstrated his own haki. Just relying on him alone is enough to scare all the Marines out of their wits. One man beats 100,000 Marine. Powerful. Too strong. Ridiculously strong, certainly. This is also indispensable for so many years, Whitebeard's great reputation in the sea. It is no exaggeration for the Marine soldiers to be frightened by the news. Facing the monstrous tsunami, this is no longer a problem that soldiers can solve. At this critical juncture, Marine Admiral needs to step up. Directly below the scaffold, the 3 admirals' chairs. Akainu stood up from where he was. A layer of magma appeared on his arm. Just when Akainu was about to make a move, sudden. A figure at the side jumped out first than Akainu. It is Aokiji, the last admiral who is as famous as Kizaru Akainu. See Aokiji dispatched. Akainu, who had stood up, sat back down again. Aokiji leaps into midair. A cold air condensed in his hand, and then rushed towards the tsunami. In this second, a shocking scene appeared. I saw that the cold air released by Aokiji hit the tsunami. The tsunami froze at a speed visible to the naked eye. The hundreds of feet high tsunami immediately froze in place like a miracle. Ice Age. At the same time, Aokiji landed on the sea. Frozen flowers grew from the soles of his feet, and even the sea was frozen by Aokiji's frozen fruit. The freezing speed was so fast that the mother and 3 sons of the Moby Dick were also implicated. The lower body of the ship cannot move. Bista walked to the side of the boat and looked at the frozen lower part of the boat. Father, our boat is frozen and can't move. It doesn't matter, I have learned about Aokiji's frozen fruit. It doesn't take 10 days and a half months. His ice soul can be melted. It just uses his frozen sea surface to give us a place to stay. On this sea of ice, let's have a good fight with Marine. Yizang held the gun in his hand and said coldly, Aokiji this way. After freezing the sea surface, without saying a word, he charged at Whitebeard. Bow and nock and arrow. A longbow of ice appeared in Aokiji's hand. Aokiji turned on Whitebeard. 3 shots of frostbolt were fired towards Whitebeard. Aokiji, so it's you kid. Whitebeard sneered at Aokiji's attack, then raised his hand and punched it. The 3 ice arrows that were launched were snapped off by Whitebeard abruptly. And, Shock Fruit's shockwave is unabated, slammed hard at Aokiji. A layer of ice shield appears in the hands of Aokiji. Shock Fruit's shockwave collided with his ice shield. Instantly, the ice shield broke directly, can't stop the impact of Shock Fruit at all. Even Aokiji was thrown out, he retreated dozens of steps to stabilize his body. Aokiji narrowed his eyes, he realized he was careless. Frostbolt. Aokiji was full of energy, and more than 100 arrows gathered around him. Then he controlled the arrow and attacked Whitebeard. Welcome to Aokiji. Another punch from Whitebeard. Use violence to control violence. These hundreds of ice soul arrows were broken by Whitebeard again. Aokiji was shocked back a few more steps. In just one breath, Aokiji, who was Marine Admiral, retreated twice. This Whitebeard. It's really difficult, little devil, it's my turn. Aokiji failed to attack twice, and Whitebeard ignored it. Able to call Admiral an imp. Only people of Whitebeard's generation can shout like that. At this time, Whitebeard crouched down. The white light above his right hand burst into boundless brilliance, and then he punched Aokiji. Ziz. The shaking of the shock fruit went straight to Aokiji. The shock wave carried a powerful destructive power to tear apart the space, and hit heavily on Aokiji's body. At this critical moment, Aokiji hurriedly elementalizes his body. But even with elementalization, he was shocked by Whitebeard's shock fruit. Elementalized Aokiji, torn to pieces by shock fruit on the spot. After falling to the ground, the icicle fragments recondensed into a human form. Aokiji came out from inside. Compared with the calmness at the beginning, Aokiji now has a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth. Obviously, in just a few moments, he was shocked by Whitebeard. Although this is only a minor injury, anyone with a discerning eye can see it. He, Aokiji, lost to Whitebeard and was at a disadvantage. Frowning, Aokiji backed out after staying away for a long time. Return to Admiral's seat and sit down, certainly. People like Marco, Izo, Bista, Kizaru, Akainu, Shichibukai, etc. can see that Whitebeard is slightly better. But in the eyes of the Marines, this is quite different. Admiral Aokiji. Even with Whitebeard, to know. When Whitebeard came on at the beginning, he gave them a suffocating pressure. This oppressive force even made them unable to hold their heads up. But since the fierce battle between Aokiji and Whitebeard, the Marines suddenly came to their senses. Although Whitebeard is called the strongest man in the world, our side is not bad. We have Admiral, we have Shichibukai to help out, and the Marshal supervises the battle, and there are heroes like Garp the Fist. Aokiji Admiral can fight Whitebeard as even, we have the other two Admirals. Yeah, Whitebeard isn't scary either. Since ancient times, soldiers have fought against generals, and we only need to do our job well. Many Marine soldiers because of this battle of Aokiji. Immediately, one by one regained a little vitality. The face is refreshed with new life. Whitebeard is certainly scary. But his opponent is the owner of the top strength of Marine. This is simply not something they can worry about. The Whitebeard pirates are at the top of their game. It's as if they don't have it on the Marine side. In other words, their opponents are just a gang of subordinate pirates in front of them. What's so scary about these pirates, this moment? In the subtle, the morale of the Marines has been restored. Reinvigorate and show off. The fighting spirit on everyone's face is high. They are Marines. When facing pirates, if even they are timid. Then who else? Guard the sea behind them, Whitebeard. Nothing to be afraid of, as early as when preparing to start this war. The ammunition and artillery fire of the Marines has been prepared 4.6. Now the battle is on the verge of breaking out, this moment. There is nothing more to say. When the two armies are at war, artillery fire should be the first. Bang bang bang. Thousands of cannon fire spewed from their muzzles. Chi-Chi bombarded the affiliated pirates in front of them. With unparalleled power, the bombardment continued to explode on the ice. Fire. Some Marines commanded subordinates to launch the most violent artillery coverage towards the Whitebeard pirates. The Marines fought back, and we fought back. On the side of the Whitebeard pirates, after seeing Marine launching an attack, many people also changed the target of their artillery fire. The two sides directly use fire coverage within the range of the range. Unleash precision strikes. Boom boom boom. A series of explosions came from above the ice layer. After a baptism of gunfire, on the affiliated pirate group, some captains jumped off the pirate group without saying a word. They bring their own group of people, attacking up Marineford. Marine over there. The Vice Admirals also showed a cold face. He also fought back with Marine, when the melee forces of the two sides collided together. The long-distance artillery bombardment from both sides also stopped. Now, it's time to start fighting. Let these pirates see how powerful our Marine is. Erlang, follow me. A Vice Admiral shouted loudly, and charged up with the Marines who were fighting high. Either you die or I die. Do you think our Whitebeard pirates are easy to mess with? The captains of the affiliated pirate group also roared and drew their swords at each other. You come and go, swords and soldiers meet, and the sound of cutting flesh can be heard everywhere. In just one breath, blood flowed like a river, wreckage was everywhere, many Marines and pirates fell to the ground. The most primitive, bloodiest and cruelest battle. At this moment, in front of the bay at Marineford. It's ringing, 067, fighting, naval headquarters in chaos. The most primitive fight has begun. The captains of the affiliated pirates are moving forward. Even in the face of some Vice Admirals, they can fight with ease. One hits two, even three Vice Admiral, it's exciting to watch. Captains here. Many people can't sit still. They wanted to compete with Marine for a long time, and jumped off the Moby Dick one after another. Take Vista, for example. Holding the double knives, he went straight to Marine. None of the Vice Admirals in front of him could stop him. The sword light in his hand waved, and Marine soldiers were killed on the spot one after another. And behind Bista, Yizang did not give up much, 2 guns in hand. Constantly blocking Marine's offensive line. A large number of people fell at his feet. Bista, let's see who can rescue Ace first. Perhaps because of Whitebeard's exaggeration, Yi Zhang has also been cultivated to be arrogant, and he wants to save Ace from Marine's heavy siege. I'm afraid you won't succeed. I'm afraid that once the competition starts, I'm afraid that you won't even be able to touch Ace, because he has already been brought back by me. Beasta also responded. Was said so, both want to be the first to bring out Ace. They tried their best and rushed towards Ace. The Whitebeard pirates are magnificent. Into the endless. In terms of strength, they are naturally not comparable to the flowers in these greenhouses who are good at fighting. It takes less than a few breaths to meet swordsmen. The Marines were beaten and retreated steadily, with the leadership of the team captains like Vista. There was chaos. Under the frenzied attack of the pirates, Marine has already begun to retreat steadily. Just when the two sides are fighting heartily, second steps in Marineford. That is, in Shichibukai, there was a little change. I came to Marineford this time mainly to test the gap with you, the strongest man in the world. I hope you don't let me down. Wearing a hat, wearing a robe, and carrying a knife, Mihawk, the world's #1 sword dream eagle eye. Be one of the first to be among the many Shichibukai. This step for Mihawk immediately let all the Shichibukai around look sideways. Not just Shichibukai, not even 3 Admiral nuances on it. Akainu, Kizaru, and Aokiji all looked at Mihawk. Both Sengoku and Garp stood on the execution platform and looked at Mihawk. No one thought of it. It stands to reason that these Shichibukai are just decorations. They have always liked paddling, and they even ignored the orders of the marshal. Did not think of. Now Shichibukai is willing to join the war. And the first to join the battle. It is Mihawk who is cold, indifferent to the world, and obsessed with swordsmanship. Mihawk walked out step by step. He pulled out his supreme sword, Hidoe, from behind him. Holding a long knife. Sharp eyes stare at Whitebeard on the Moby Dick in the distance. Same. Whitebeard, standing on the Moby Dick, also noticed a threat approaching. Follow the source to see the past. Gu-la-la-la, Mihawk. The little devils are all grown up. Don't talk about Aokiji, even Mihawk is just a kid in front of Whitebeard. Mihawk raised the knife, pointing to the distant Whitebeard. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Concentrate all the power on your own arms. Subsequently, raise the supreme sharp knife. Mihawk slashed in Whitebeard's direction. Stab. A slash with a height of 40 meters burst out from above Hidoe. The bright sword light is extremely eye-catching. Sweep across the ice. Even the solid and unbreakable ice surface was split in two under Mihawk's slash. This knife slashed. Head straight for Whitebeard on the Moby Dick. The Moby Dick is about to be split in two, however. Facing Mihawk this full blow, Whitebeard just stood there quietly, unmoved at all. Just when the slash was about to hit the Moby Dick. A stalwart figure, right in front of the Moby Dick. His whole body is shining, the whole body is bright, and it is extremely dazzling under the sunlight. Jozu, the third captain of the Whitebeard pirates. Diamond Fruit ability user. Possess an invincible defense force. At this time, half of the third captain Jozu's body was covered with indestructible diamonds. Facing a huge slash, he actually pinched this particularly sharp sword light with his bare hands. Drink. The moment of collision. Chaozi's arms suddenly trembled violently, almost unable to hold back. His face froze. At first he thought he was high enough to look at Mihawk, but it was just this slash that made Jozu realize that he still underestimated him. What a sharp slash. Jozu's legs scraped long trenches on the ice. He gritted his teeth even more. Do everything in your power, then raise your arms. This Mihawk's full blow was intercepted by Jozu, known as the strongest, shield. Slashing into the sky. Exploded in the sky. This piece of sky suddenly tore up the clouds, scattered in a rush, and there was no cloud in the sky. Mihawk saw the result. He knew he was hopeless against Whitebeard. Put away the long knife and insert it back behind him. Back to the second step, Shichibukai's ranks. Yeah, with these captains around, I'm afraid it's not that easy to get close to Whitebeard. Doflamingo added insult to injury from the sidelines. Mihawk simply ignores Doflamingo. Gia, many shadows, many shadows. Gecko Moria keeps harvesting the shadows of the scene, whether it is pirates or marines, they will not let go of them all. When I think of facing these stinky men, I feel sick for a while. The pirate Empress Boa Hancock covered her eyes, not wanting to witness everything in front of her. Shang actually opened the notebook he carried with him at this moment, and read the book quietly in such an extremely important scene as the Summit War. These Shichibukai, Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral spat viciously at these Shichibukai. It's nothing more than harvesting the shadows of pirates. Gecko Moria, why did he harvest the shadows of marines? Another Vice Admiral clenched his fist and gritted his teeth. But now their #1 land is Whitebeard. For these lawless Shichibukai, they could only swallow their anger. Get rid of the Whitebeard in front of you first, and settle accounts with this group of Shichibukai who don't know what to do. Marine's line of defense. At this moment, because Captain Ban and the captain of the affiliated pirate group led the troops to attack, has been constantly rout. Even on the first stage of the battlefield, they have completely lost their dominance. Damn it, The attack of these pirates is too fierce, we can't stop it at all. If you can't stop it, you have to stop it. You must not increase the arrogance of their gang of evil pirates.
What orders is there from the Marshal? We need the command of the Marshal.
The soldiers shouted at the Vice Admirals. Vice Admirals are also gritting their teeth and struggling. Watching Marine lose like a mountain. On the side of the Whitebeard pirates, the captain and the other crew members also showed excitement on their faces. These guys Marine. But that's all. There are a total of 100,000 troops here, but they are just wine bags and rice bags. Just when they are full of ambition. Marshal Sengoku's first military order was issued. Withdraw from the first step, build a high platform, and baptize with artillery fire. Get instructions from Sengoku. The Vice Admirals hurriedly led the soldiers and left the first step. And at this moment, a series of high walls were built around them. In order to deal with the Whitebeard pirates, how can there be enough except 150,000 Marines? This high wall is the first barrier to stop them. Where is this place? This is Marineford. Their Marine headquarters, as mentioned before, is here, their Marine world, for the Whitebeard pirates. Marineford at this time, it's the Longton Tiger's den. The high wall suddenly rose, and on top of that high wall, Marine's fort has already been built. Fire. When all the Marines retreated to the first step, only the Whitebeard pirates remained on the first step. And because of this, they can unscrupulously use cannon fire to wash away the gang of pirates in front of them. Bang bang bang. Boom 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 boom. Violent explosion. Shino. The Whitebeard pirates were originally complacent. At this moment, he also paid an extremely tragic price. Many people were buried in these artillery fire. Heavy casualties, no bones left. We must break through this high wall, otherwise we will become turtles in the jar. Vista shouted at the surrounding crew members with an ugly expression. These high towers were built by the Marines, they came prepared, and they are not easy to break through. Yizang lost the arrogance he had before, and never thought that Marine would make such a move. Give it to me. At this time, a giant stepped out from behind Azong and Vista. He used his body to protect the last high wall that was about to rise. Forcibly opened up a road to the second step for many crew members. See this path? Countless members of the Whitebeard pirates became angry. This is a road that the crew built for them with blood and bones. Anyway, go on with the faith of your partners. The Whitebeard pirates went berserk. Everyone can't wait to tear all these pirates apart. Furious, they fought towards the Marines one by one again. Second steps in this Marineford. The two sides collided again. This time, even the Shichibukai are involved. Jozu opened and closed his arms wide, and under his fists, the Marine in front of him was defeated immediately. But at this moment, Chaozi suddenly punched Yizang. Yizang was shocked. Jozu, what are you doing? Go, my body is out of control. Jozu shouted in horror. At this time, not far away, a man in a flamingo costume came out. Although paddling is the best, but if I really turn a blind eye to it, I'm afraid my position as Shichibukai will not be stable at that time. I'm sorry, the third captain. Doflamingo steps out from behind Jozu. With a flick of his finger, Chaozi knocked away several members of the white group in one go. On the other side, Vista also found Hawkeye Mihawk, who is also a swordsman. I have long wanted to compete with you, the world's #1 swordsman. No match for Whitebeard though, but Vista, who is a strong swordsman like himself, is also a good choice. Mihawk said lightly, then let me try your foil. With Shichibukai involved, the pressure on Vice Admirals has been reduced. And on the high platform, Sengoku's second order came down, get out all pacifists. Pacifist. Perhaps in terms of strength, they may not be as good as the Vice Admirals on the scene. But on destructive power, they are second to none.
Hundreds of pacifists were dispatched. All kinds of light shells bombarded, and the casualties of the white group were raised to another level.
On this second step, the soldiers of the Whitebeard pirates can no longer attack.
You can't go forward, you can't go back. Sengoku sees it all.
Next, it only needs to slowly devour the combat power of this white regiment and destroy their morale.
The morale of the army is slack. Then they are gone, and they can never get back. The Whitebeard pirates will be dropped by their marine here at Marineford today.
Strategize and win thousands of miles, in order to avoid future troubles. The third order Sengoku issued again. Akainu, it's time for you to act 11. Akainu stood up from where he was. Now most of the captains have been dispatched. On the Moby Dick, that leaves only a few like Whitebeard and Marco. Also at this moment, it's their turn for Admiral. Capture the thief first and capture the king first. Akainu went straight for Whitebeard, Moby Dick aboard. Whitebeard frowned. Naturally he also saw the sons who couldn't get in. It's fine if you can't hit it, but you can't get it back. Once returned, I'm afraid they will be bombarded indiscriminately by Marine. Sengoku. You are indeed a Marine Admiral. Even I can't compare to you in terms of planning.
Whitebeard, die. Suddenly, a voice came over. Looked up.
I saw a huge mass of magma smashing towards me. Sakazuki. Whitebeard didn't know Sakazuki's identity. As Admiral, is he finally going to make a move? Whitebeard and Akainu fist butt together, the impact from above. Make both of them take half a step back, and just as Whitebeard stepped back. Behind him, there was another person again. Aokiji from one of the Marine Admirals. Akainu and Aokiji, one behind the other, put Whitebeard in the middle. Whitebeard, next year today will be your death day. Akainu went to war without saying a word. Huge magma was continuously released. Although Aokiji doesn't want to cooperate with Akainu, but this time the opponent is 4 Emperors Whitebeard after all. The two had to join forces. Admiral was besieged by 2 full members. Whitebeard's eyes froze, and he became depressed. But when facing their attack, Whitebeard looked at Marco. Marco, I leave it to you. The 2 admirals joined forces to attack 513, even the 4 emperors may not be able to stop it. Can now. The only one who can restrain them is himself. And at this moment, the strength on the execution platform will definitely be vacant. It's a great time for Marco to rescue Ace. Vista and the others are no longer able to attack. We can only rely on Marco to show off his magic weapon. Father. Those are 2 members of Admiral, and when he thinks of Whitebeard's body, Marco is extremely worried. Who will watch over Whitebeard once he's gone? Listen to Dad. Whitebeard exhorted again. Good, thinking of a quick fix, just bring out the ace. Marco gritted his teeth. His eyes fell on Ace on the execution platform. From here to the execution stand, if you are flying with all your strength, it is only 10 breaths. 10 breaths. Enough time. A layer of blue golden flames appeared on Marco's body. At the same time, his arms also turned into a pair of wings. Marco jumped up. He soared into the sky in an instant. The phoenix fruit emerges, heading straight for Ace's execution platform. It is necessary to bring Ace out in this precious time that Dad won. Although Marco thought so in his heart, it's better to be a person than to be a god. Oh hey, Captain Marco, I've been waiting for you for a long time. A strange tone appeared in Marco's ear. It was Kizaru. As Marine Admiral, as early as the moment Marco acted. He has already blocked the only way for Marco. Captain Whitebeard on one side and Marine Admiral on the other. The 2 sides are evenly matched. Snort. Marco is not waiting for me, his face is unmoved. At full speed, he rushed to Kizaru in front of him. Oh hey, I seem to be underestimated. Looking at Marco's indifferent appearance, Kizaru didn't know that he was underestimated. Certainly, Kizaru also doesn't care that Marco underestimates him. I saw him fold his hands in front of his chest, and said 5 words softly, 8 feet Chong Guyu. Shish. A golden light filled the sky, released from Kizaru's hands. A series of sharp edges smashed towards Marco in front of him. Marco's phoenix was filled with flames. Let the 8-foot Chong Guyu fall on him. At the same time, lift your legs. In the way of hanging the golden hook upside down, he kicked towards the yellow ape. Kizaru raised his hand. Fists and feet meet. The collision of the 2 sides sent a long cry in the sky. Immediately afterwards, Kizaru, who was Marine Admiral, was kicked out by Marco. He slammed into the ground in embarrassment, smashing into the ruins. After kicking the yellow ape flying, Marco leaps to the execution platform again. Sengoku's face was serious, and he had to protect Ace. Necessary timing. He, Sengoku, also joins the battle as a soldier. And just when Marco was only 1 step away from the execution platform. Even when Ace is about to be at your fingertips, an old man with white hair appeared. His body is tall, his robes are thick, his momentum is magnificent, and he has the innate haki. Garp. Marco was shocked. He didn't expect that at the last step close to the execution platform, he met the legendary marine hero Garp the Fist. 068. Fight to the death, Whitebeard under siege by 2 admirals. At this time, the 3 admirals had already left the execution platform one after another. This is the perfect time for Marco to get close to the scaffold and steal the ace. But at this moment, a marine stood in front of Marco. It is Garp the Fist. Garp. Marco looked serious. Whether you meet Shichibukai or Admiral, Marco wouldn't be fazed by it at all. But Garp is very different. He was a rival with his father when he was young. It goes without saying how strong Whitebeard was at his peak. But even Whitebeard back then wasn't willing to fight Garp for a long time. Block yourself. It was him. Garp jumped and stood in front of Marco. The sharp light in his eyes shot out, and he raised his bone fist. A punch hit Marco hard in the face. Marco turned on all his defenses. The expansion of a blue golden flame intercepted in front of Marco. But even so, under one punch, Marco's heart cracked and the blood in his mouth gushed out of his throat. Boom. He slammed his head into the ground. Just like Kizaru before, he was incomparably embarrassed. A crater was smashed into the ground. Marco lay on his stomach. After defeating Marco with one punch, Garp flicked his robe and sat down in front of the 3 admirals in full view of all the marines and pirates in Marineford. Old man, it's also a marine. Garp let out a roar. He is the backbone of Marine, the banner of Marine, and the existence that all Marines believe in. Although Ace is undoubtedly his grandson, as a grandfather, Garp does not want to see such a situation at all. Comparable to Ace, he has to side with Marine now. Those of the Whitebeard pirates don't even try to get near the execution stand. In the big pit, Marco's blue gold flames dissipated, a fist was punched on his face, and blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. Under this punch, he could hardly bear it. Marco had a look of pity on his face. Just a little bit, then Ace can be brought out, fall short. Whitebeard this way, it was very difficult for him to support Akainu and Aokiji alone. When seeing Marco also fell short and was blocked by Garp, Whitebeard's face darkened a bit. Marine's advantage gradually became apparent. You have to open up the situation yourself. As the 4 emperors of New World, the captain of the Whitebeard pirates. Whitebeard knew he had to open up, otherwise, one ebbs and another. They Whitebeard pirates will eventually fall in this Marineford. The entire pirate group will be burned, the scales tipped. The situation will never return, but Whitebeard has more heart than power. No matter how strong he is, nor is it the combined rivalry of 2 admirals. Not to mention, in the past 10 years, Whitebeard has been plagued by illness, and he has long lost his former peak strength. Under the joint attack of Akainu and Aokiji, Whitebeard was losing ground. Even accidentally got punched by Akainu, this punch. Withdraw from Whitebeard's violent attack, and it took a while to recover. It happened that this punch triggered Whitebeard's old disease. The mouth kept bleeding. Whitebeard coughed violently and had to rely on Kong Yunch to barely stand. Akainu saw Whitebeard so embarrassed, the idea of wanting to kill him intensified. Akainu's shots became more and more fierce and decisive. Aokiji flitted aside. Keep Whitebeard constantly distracted. Whitebeard now. We've reached the end of the road. Daddy. When Joe saw that Whitebeard was severely injured by 2 admirals, and his mouth kept bleeding, his face changed drastically. Pull out all the stops and break free from Doflamingo's string fruit. Doflamingo saw Josie trying to break free. Using the sharp cutting ability of string fruit, he opened several bloody gashes directly behind Joe's. But Joe's didn't care about it at all. Against Doflamingo's back attack, he single-mindedly rescued the past in the direction of Whitebeard. Daddy. Beasta also saw the appearance of his father. He put away his double knives, got rid of Mihawk in front of him, and never had the heart to challenge the world's #1 swordsman. Return quickly in the direction of Whitebeard. Seeing this, Mihawk put away his sword moves. He didn't pursue, but stuck Hei Dao Yi back into his back. The other captains also came back to help, hold him. On the high platform, Sengoku quickly ordered Vice Admiral to intercept the captains when he saw the captains wanting to return. As Whitebeard is now, Akainu and Aokiji just need to add another fire. The summit war situation can be settled. Some Vice Admirals also sacrificed themselves to die. More than 20 Vice Admirals stopped in front of these captains. Get out of the way, Joes, Beasta and the others shouted angrily. But the strength of Vice Admirals is not so easy to solve. The 2 sides fought together. Let Joes, Vista and other captains have amazing methods. But 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. The number of more than 20 Vice Admirals is too much. They share the same hatred. I have less than 7 or 8 captains here. Can only watch helplessly as Akainu and Aokiji siege Whitebeard. Father, I'll help you. Marco glanced at the scaffold. With Garp there, he couldn't get any closer. Rather than that, I can only return to help my father. It is imperative. It's about rescuing Daddy, but just when Marco was about to go back. Oh hey, now it's time to settle for the kick you just kicked me. Kizaru also came out of the ruins. He was spotless. Even if he was kicked by Marco, he was not hurt. Kizaru. He glanced worriedly at Whitebeard, and Kizaru who stopped him in front of him. Marco knew he had to be dealt with before he could get back to Whitebeard. But Kizaru is also a veteran admiral anyway. Want to solve him? How difficult? Can be forced to. Marco can only choose a quick fight. That's all. Marco confronted Kizaru, and the other captains joined the Vice Admirals. The captain of the affiliated pirates also encountered the obstruction of the giant Vice Admiral. The crew of the White Regiment also collided with the Marine elite soldiers. Whitebeard was besieged by 2 admirals, soldier against soldier, general against general. Desperate battle. Played at Marineford, at the same time. The picture of the scene was videotaped by a local camera phone bug end. And broadcasted all over the world. Sabodi Archipelago, Dressrosa, the first half of the Grand Line, New World and many other places. They are all showing the great battle of Marineford. Anyone who watches this battle, they were all shocked by the murderous Marineford. Countless people are admiring the strength of the Whitebeard pirates, but also marveling at the background of Marine. No matter what tricks Whitebeard uses, they are all picked up by Sengoku. Strategize. Everything is in the palm of your hand. However, when this great battle broke out in Marineford, the other side, this is the big prison under the sea. An unexpected party has landed on Impel Down. This ship spirit is too powerful, it can actually make our Thousand Sunny take off. As the captain, Frankie was very shocked by the Thousand Sunny who could fly. Notice. In the beginning, he specially made wind to blast this ability for Thousand Sunny. Can be obvious, already have the ability to fly. The blowing effect of this wind is not too big, as for why ships fly. No doubt. Luffy pulled the boat spirit out again to take the blame. Frankie didn't call at all, and took a small notebook to record this scene. All in all, fly by Thousand Sunny. Luffy and his party directly crossed the Gate of Justice, and fell straight from a high altitude to the port of Impel Down, a large submarine prison. The port was exactly as Luffy thought. Now Sengoku gathered all his forces at Marinlo. The guard soldiers of the Impel Down, very little. Although the force is weak, there are still patrolling soldiers. The soldiers suddenly saw a ship descending from the sky, and they raised their heads quickly. But before they had time to see clearly what kind of ship it was, Luffy had already come behind them. Give them a pat on the neck. Plop flop. Several patrol soldiers fainted on the spot. Without these patrol soldiers, all the members of the Straw Hat Pirates successfully landed on Impel Down. Is this the Impel Down? So dark? Nami said worriedly. After all, it is said to be an undersea prison that no one can break through. If it is not dark and scary, how can it scare countless pirates? Sanji lit a cigarette and said anxiously, Luffy, what do we do now? Are we really going to break this Impel Down? Usopp said nervously, what else? Are we here on vacation? Luffy asked a rhetorical question. He paused and then said, I know your concerns, don't worry, isn't this Impel Down claiming that no one can break it? It just follows today's opportunity. Let's break this Impel Down. During the conversation, Luffy directly kicked open the door of the Impel Down. The door crashed down. The dark and damp smell inside immediately rushed over. Luffy strode in. Sanji, Zoro, Usopp, Nami, Robin and others followed in succession. Yishao and Laniu followed closely behind. Buzz. Luffy's eyes glowed red, and Observation Haki captured all the clues in front of him like a radar. In the impression, in addition to the guarded soldiers on the outside of this Impel Down, the soldiers inside are also guarded. But alas, Summit War takes place today. There are very few troops here. The only thing to worry about, it's the monitoring phone bug stuck deep in the corner. Impel Down has a master control room. From the first floor to the 6th floor of Impel Down, there are almost monitoring phone bugs watching. Once there is any sign of trouble, these pictures will all be sent to the main control room. This makes it easier for Impel Down to suppress those prisoners who try to escape. And guarding the main control room is the warden of Impel Down, a large undersea prison, a poisonous fruit-capable person, and Magellan who spends the rest of his life in the toilet almost all day long. Rumor. Magellan's strength is matched with his unique ability of poisonous fruit. Under the instant outbreak, the strength is not weaker than any of Admiral. At first, when Blackbeard took everyone trying to leave Impel Down. That's Magellan. One man wiped out the entire Blackbeard pirates. Blackbeard at this moment, but it already has the potential of 4 emperors. It can be seen from this, just how powerful Magellan is. Luffy freed the prisoner this time, and no one else could worry about it. Only this Magellan is a headache opponent, but no matter how strong Magellan is, Luffy doesn't think that he alone can stop his footsteps. Closer to home, after Observation Haki is turned on, even those phone bugs hiding in the dark can't escape Luffy's eyes. Destroy them. Avoid exposing your whereabouts. At the same time, there are also a small number of Marines patrolling along the way. Luffy also solved them all without saying a word. A group of people passed through the first floor of Impel Down and walked to the second floor of the next floor. The first floor is called Crimson Hell, and the second floor is called Warcraft Hell. In this category, Luffy met a lot of ferocious monsters from the demon world. They bared their teeth and showed their eyes longing for meat. Face these monsters. There was no need for Luffy to make a move. Zoro and Sanji are like clearing the snow from the front door. Almost all the monsters were solved by them. Passing through the second floor, everyone came to the third floor. It's called Starvation Hell. As the name suggests, prisoners here will not receive any food supplies. Then Luffy took everyone through the 4th floor of Blazing Hell and the 5th floor of Freezing Hell. Luffy looked up. His gaze is on the last gate of Impel Down. The gate was covered with moss. Looks like it's rarely opened. Backquote. This door is a little weird. Nami frowned. What kind of weird method? Luffy looked sideways. Those doors before are almost not as covered with moss as this door. You see, these walls, and the smelly water overflowing, it's hard to imagine what kind of existence is imprisoned behind this door. Nami regretted it a bit, and knew that she would stay on the boat honestly. She mainly wants to follow Luffy, see the world at the same time. But never expected. The environment of this Impel Down is actually so bad. Who would have thought? This may seem like several layers of hell, but the harsh environment inside is quite different. Another blazing hell, another freezing hell. What the hell is this Impel Down constructed of? There is such an abnormal living climate. The undersea prison has 6 floors in total. We have passed through the 5th floor before. Luffy, this should be the last door. Robin asked Luffy with a sideways glance. That's right, behind this door, the money, is our destination, the 6th floor of the undersea prison. Luffy said calmly, from the beginning, Luffy's goal. It is the 6th level of hell in the Great Submarine Prison. Freeing prisoners is certainly important, but more important. Or the last prisoners in the 6th floor. Behind this door is the last floor of the big prison. It's so damp and dark here, Luffy, do you know what kind of vicious criminals are being held here? Usopp said anxiously. Usopp, if you continue to stay on Thousand Sunny, if you are caught by Marine in the future, you may also be imprisoned here. Luffy joked in a rare round. Certainly, this statement is half true and half false. According to Usopp's current practice speed 10 times. I believe it will not be long. A reward of over 100 million is just around the corner. The strength has increased, and the reward has increased. The floor of Impel Down is going up, let alone Usopp. Even women like Nami and Robin, it may also be better than shutting down Impel Down. Not to mention Luffy, once arrested, Wei Jincheng directly became his home. That's one of the perks of being on the Thousand Sunny. It can allow them to rapidly improve their strength in a short period of time. There are also disadvantages. That is the final destination, possibly this 6th floor prison. What? I don't want to be imprisoned in this crappy place. Usopp looked startled. So, hurry up and practice.
Luffy patted Usopp on the shoulder and said, walk into.
Without further ado. Already here, Luffy directly kicked open the door again. He took everyone with him. Along the dimly lit spiral staircase, slowly walked towards the darkest depth step by step. Tick-tock. Water was constantly falling from overhead. It hit the ground, and water splashed in all directions.
Gusts of wind, with the sound of howling ghosts and howling wolves, resounded continuously in this dark corridor. 069, liberate the prisoners, the last 6th floor eternal hell.
Walk through dark corridors. A bright light appeared ahead. With Zoro, Sanji and other crew members, Luffy successfully arrived at the last place of the large submarine prison. The forbidden place of death known as Eternal Hell. It's here. Anyone who can come in is almost a famous existence on the sea. Either death row or life imprisonment. Because the criminals on this floor did a lot of evil, the monster-level figures who were erased from history because they were too vicious, did some things beyond the level of cruelty. Not even some Marine soldiers know about it. There's a place like the 6th floor in Impel Down. Just walked into the 6th floor. Nami, Usopp, Chopper and others pinched their noses. Without him, the stench in the air is really bad. Luffy looked over. On both sides of the prison, many dead bones are lying in the corners of the walls.
The stench emanates from the rotting flesh. This 6th floor seems to be rarely cleaned.
I'm afraid even Marine is very afraid of these prisoners who are detained in the 6th floor prison. A living person. A fresh living person. Meet Luffy and his party. All the prisoners in the cage stared wide-eyed, then. They seemed to have seen something incredible, all criminals. Staring at the two of Robin Nami in front of them. There's still a woman here. Being imprisoned here all year round, seeing women suddenly, one by one seems to have been beaten with chicken blood. Some even stretched their hands out of the cage, even to touch these women. But just when their hands were about to touch the two of Nami Robin. Stab. Luffy pulled out the autumn water from Zoro's waist again. A knife in the past. A total of 6 or 7 arms fell to the ground with a click. Immediately afterwards, the sound of killing a pig came from the cage. Luffy indifferently pushed Chusui back into Zoro's waist. Zoro just snorted coldly. Step over these broken limbs. Everyone continued to walk into the depths of the 6th floor. The other vicious pirates saw how decisive Luffy was. Especially when seeing 6 or 7 severed arms falling on the ground. They suddenly became terrified, quickly realized that this might not be someone to mess with. Even if they are hungry, compared with my own limbs, this hunger and thirst are insignificant. The depths of the 6th floor of the Eternal Hell. A blue-skinned, long-distance running fish wearing a kimono was bound in place with his hands and feet tied up, and he was wearing a pair of tight seastone handcuffs on his hands and feet. There are several whip marks on the blue skin. The face is also full of bloodline. It seemed that he had experienced a severe beating, and he was extremely embarrassed. He is the former 7 warlords of the sea, Haishu Jinbe. To ask why Jinbe was imprisoned here, learned that Ace was captured by Marine. When Marine even wanted to threaten the Whitebeard pirates with this. Jinbe absolutely cannot sit idly by. It is about the safety of the Whitebeard pirates. He came to Marine to find the Marshal to return Ace. Unexpectedly, a contradiction arose along the way. Jinbe is Shichibukai though, but compared to Marine, he still has a slight deficiency. Under Marine's siege, Jinbe was captured. At the same time, he was also thrown into the Eternal Hell, the last floor of the deep-sea prison. Jinbe now. Despair was written all over his face. I am afraid. Now Whitebeard has come to Marineford, and is launching an unprecedented decisive battle with Marine. The Whitebeard pirates are the benefactors of the Fishmen Island. Jinbe is another extremely loyal character. Sometimes God really plays tricks on people. The more I want to stop this battle. On the contrary, the farther you are from the scene of the war, the farther you are. chained to the dark Impel Down, looking at the ocean and sighing. Facing the wall and thinking about it, well. Marine came prepared this time, and the Whitebeard pirates may be in danger. The thought of the Whitebeard pirates' imminent destruction in Marineford.
Jinbe's heart was bleeding. Why? Hexia Jinbe also sighs sometimes.
Just as Jinbe was sighing, a hoarse voice came from the side. Jinbe looked towards the source of the voice. Crocodile, you don't understand my mood at all. Good. Prison next to Jinbe. It was the crocodile who wanted to unify the desert country and had the sand fruit ability. Crocodile. Same status as Jinbe, also one of 7 warlords of the sea. Trying to get ancient weapon, conquer the world, and fulfill your goals. However, he missed a move and met the protagonist group. Since then, Crocodile's plans are shattered, lost to Luffy who hadn't crossed before. Then he was sent to the bottom of the sea by Smoker to Impel Down, and became one of the prisoners in eternal hell. I heard that you were arrested for the Whitebeard pirates. Now that Marine has killed the Whitebeard pirates, I really don't agree with your behavior. Crocodile naturally knew how Jinbe was captured. Actually, just look at him. Such behavior by Jinbe. Childish cannot be childish, stupid can be stupid.
It's as if he wants to engulf the desert country. An ordinary person wants to dissuade him. Do you think Crocodile will give up his long plan because of just a few words?
Of course not. Jinbe threw himself into the trap like this, and couldn't help but not get a little bit of advantage. It even caused the Whitebeard pirates to lose a lot of Shichibukai combat power for no reason. The loss outweighs the gain. I have my own ideas, don't worry about it. Hearing Crocodile's taunts, Jinbe didn't want to have anything more to do with him. With all due respect, it seems to me that your behavior is really stupid. Crocodile sneered. What did you say? Jinbe said angrily. Why, do you think I'm wrong? Crocodile still had that sneer. You are just a prisoner. I heard that you were killed by a pirate who just debuted. This news has spread all over the sea. You are the biggest shame in Shichibukai. Jinbe said. You. Crocodile clenched his fists. Thinking that I was actually killed by the Straw Hat Luffy who just debuted that day. All the time. This is Crocodile's heart disease. It is an indelible scar. Just when the two Shichibukai disliked each other. Suddenly, there was a sound of footsteps, and they stopped in front of the two of them. Jinbe, you are so elegant, even in prison, you still have the mind to argue with others. Suddenly a voice was heard. Jinbe and Crocodile turned their heads together. But he saw 10 people standing outside the cage in front of him. The leader was wearing a straw hat and simple clothes, but there was a vague smile on his face. Luffy. Jinbe naturally recognizes Luffy, and now Luffy's reputation above the sea is indistinctly close to that of the 5th Emperor. Blue skin, the appearance of a murloc, it seems that I have not mistaken the person. Luffy has been practicing for a long time. Even if you follow the news, it's all about Summit War or something. He recognizes many people just by their appearance. It's like the Jinbe in front of him, because it's too weird. This made a deep impression on Luffy. You. How are you here? Jinbe asked a little surprised. Why can't I be here? Or, only you can come in, and I can't come in? Luffy said with a smile. Jinbe was at a loss for words. This was the first time he saw Luffy in person. Look, it's not as scary as I thought it would be. Straw Hat. Same. In the prison next door, the moment he saw Luffy, Crocodile stood up from where he was. He stared hard at Luffy. Being defeated by Luffy at the beginning has always been his indelible scar. Thinking about it so far, it still hurts, especially before Jinbe said he was a disgrace in Shichibukai. This made it impossible for Crocodile to calm down at all. Who are you? However, facing Crocodile's fury, Luffy said in doubt. In fact, it's no wonder that Luffy didn't recognize the sand crocodile at first sight. His gaze, mainly focused on Jinbe, plus he hasn't seen Crocodile. To ignore him, Crocodile's eyes widened. He gritted his teeth and said, I never thought that you kid would have such a vicious mouth. Defeated by Luffy, the shame of being a Shichibukai is nothing more than that. Nowadays, Luffy has already come to the door in person. He actually said words that he didn't know himself. What is he doing? He is killing people. When did Crocodile, who is a Shichibukai, suffer such disgrace? Immediately flew into a rage. He's Crocodile. Nami reminded in a low voice. She also knows. Sometimes Luffy is very forgetful, and sometimes he can't remember the people he has met before. Crocodile? Luffy looked at the sand crocodile in front of him. He came to the 6th floor this time. Besides Jinbe, Crocodile is also Luffy's target. After all, Crocodile's 50-50 strength is not as simple as it is boasted. Now you can compete with Luffy in the desert country.
On the Summit War, you can tear up the major masters by hand.
Are you Crocodile? Luffy asked the sand crocodile. This remark made the sand crocodile question upside down. If I am not a crocodile, who else can pretend to be myself? Straw Hat Boy, although I consider myself a tiger in peace, I am not letting you bully me at will. Crocodile said angrily. Aye, don't get me wrong, I am a straightforward person. If there is anything negligent, please forgive me. Luffy clarified to himself. During the conversation, Luffy took a key from his belt. This is the keychain that was fumbled in the pockets of those guards just now.
Follow the corresponding cage number above. Luffy opened Jinbe's cage, and put Jinbe.
Rescued. Thank you for your help. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I haven't been able to get away yet. Unfortunately, Marineford is in a hurry. If there is a chance, I will definitely be there in the future. Thanks for visiting. Seeing Luffy release himself, Jinbe said very gratefully. But it was too late for him to thank him now. The Whitebeard pirates need themselves. He has to get there as soon as possible. Luffy looked at Jinbe in front of him. Follow the storyline in the original book. Jinbe will be the helm of the Straw Hat Pirates from now on. After all, he is also a crew member on his own ship, and a powerful 7 warlords of the sea. Luffy is not willing to miss Jinbe. Think about it. Luffy said, Jinbe, are you planning to go to Marineford? That's right. Honestly, do you think you can turn the tide of the battle by going alone? Asked Luffy. Even if it can't be reversed, I have to live and die with the Whitebeard pirates. Jinbe knew that even if he passed by alone, it wouldn't help. But no matter what, he also has to do his part for the Whitebeard pirates. It's no wonder Crocodile called you pedantic before, but I see it now. Luffy chuckled. Pedantic? Jinbe didn't understand what Luffy meant.
Since one person's past can't turn the situation around, what's the use of your past?
Luffy looked at Jinbe and said, however, if I don't do my part, if something really happens that I regret, I will spend my whole life in regret. Jinbe shook his head. He had to go to Marineford today.
Luffy also turned serious now. He glanced at Jinbe in surprise.
It is worthy of the title of Seaman. Don't say anything else. That's the spirit. Luffy really appreciates him. He also put away his joke mentality. Luffy said, I can understand your feelings, but now is not the time to go your own way. Ace and I have a relationship. If he is in trouble, I will never stand by. To be honest, the last time I came to the undersea prison, it was to prepare for the Summit War. Preparing for Summit War? Jinbe raised his head. Luffy brought himself to Impel Down for the purpose. Simply talk to Jinbe. Use the prisoners in the large submarine prison to compete with Marine? After learning about Luffy's idea, Jinbe immediately stayed where he was. But soon, a look of joy immediately appeared on his face. He really didn't think of it. Luffy actually has such a means. Indeed, if the prisoners can really be mobilized to launch a crusade against Marine, that's a mighty new force, prisoners who can be held here. Which strength is not the top generation, once you bring them to Marineford? It's like a tiger joining the sheep. How should Marine resist this? I didn't expect you to be so far-sighted. I was the one to be abrupt. Jinbe gave Luffy a high look, and praised him endlessly. Forethought is not counted. We have just come to Impel Down. You are just the first prisoner I released. Luffy explained. Time is waiting. Who shall we rescue next? Time waits for no one. Jinbe hurriedly asked. Isn't there someone right in front of you? Luffy looked at Crocodile in front of him. Hear what Luffy said. Crocodile also raised his head abruptly. He looked at Luffy suspiciously. Are you talking about me? Crocodile said. If not? Luffy replied. Hey, although I've been locked in the 6th floor prison, it's not that I don't know what's going on outside. Do you think I'll help you? Crocodile said calmly. I think you will. We had different goals back then in the desert country, but this time, we have the same goal and share the same hatred. I believe that the dignified 7 warlords of the sea is not like that. A person with a small belly, Luffy said calmly. The goal is the same. A joke. Why should I work hard for you? Crocodile said sarcastically. Just because I can let you out now, don't you want to leave this dark 6th floor of Impel Down? In exchange, you help me out this time, and then, we owe nothing. Luffy gave Crocodile a note. Enough is enough. Anyone can take me away, but the Straw Hat Boy, this person must not be you. You go. I don't need your charity at all. Crocodile said grimly. Oh, should I say that you are stubborn, or that you have a small belly? Could it be that you have been beaten down by me before, and you can no longer hold your head up? Luffy said lightly. Stop talking nonsense. Your threat will have no effect on me, unless you kill me. Crocodile gritted his teeth and said angrily. Hear the words of Crocodile. Luffy couldn't help being surprised, but smiled indifferently, as you wish. During the conversation, he pulled out the autumn water from Zoro's waist again. This Chusui is getting easier to use. Luffy throws autumn water out. The autumn water slammed through Crocodile's right arm, and then he was nailed hard to the wall behind him. The current Crocodile wears seastone handcuffs and can't elementalize the body at all. Tie this down. Blood gushed from Crocodile's arm. Crocodile also had a terrified face and a terrified heart. Luffy, this guy. He actually dared to do it. This is not enough. Luffy drew Zoro's second saber again. Another throw at the Crocodile. Peefed. Crocodile was also hit in the left arm by Luffy. Both the left arm and the right arm were inserted by the blade. He nailed it hard to the wall behind him. This moment. Crocodile is like a pendant. Nailed to the wall and can't move. Luffy drew Zoro's third knife again. Swish swish swish. A full 30 knives were drawn up. The knife hits the vital point. The sound of the sharp sword light cutting through the flesh was constantly heard from Crocodile's body. In an instant, Crocodile had already been cut to pieces by Luffy, blood was spilled on the ground and all over the cage. Even Crocodile was sweating coldly on his brow as the pain tore through his body. Madman. This guy is just crazy. Crocodile is no longer as calm as before. The eyes and face rarely showed fear and despair. Luffy put the knife on Crocodile's neck. The last cut will be your neck. Here I am asking you one last time, to help or not to help. 070, fierce beasts from eternal hell, to help or not to help. This is a naked threat, forcing him to make a choice. Feeling the sharpness on his neck, Crocodile didn't know, as long as he said no. Luffy in front of him will raise his hand, the knife will fall. End your own life. For Luffy's methods, and gang along with him day and night, the people of the Straw Hat Pirates have already seen it, not at all. But Crocodile is different, he hasn't seen Luffy since Desert Kingdom. To know, at that time, Luffy was still a silly and sweet one. For the sake of an insignificant country, he was as stupid as a young man against himself as 7 warlords of the sea. In the end, relying on his passionate and reckless methods, he really managed to get past him recklessly. So much so that Crocodile is now the shame of 7 warlords of the sea. But compared to the shame, he was even more horrified. Always felt. The Luffy in front of him has changed. The previous silly and sweet Nova pirate had completely disappeared. On the contrary, it is the powerful pirate in front of him who is decisive and has extremely cold eyes. This moment, time seems to go very long. Crocodile was also a little apprehensive. Overwhelmed by Luffy's methods. A long time, the response came from Crocodile's mouth. Good. He almost agreed to Luffy's exorbitant request with difficulty. I hope you won't break your promise. Luffy withdrew the 2 knives impaled on Crocodile's body. The moment it was withdrawn, the blood flew out again. Seastone handcuffs. There is really a huge limit to demon fruit power. Otherwise Luffy wouldn't have judged Crocodile so easily. A bean appears in Luffy's hand. Eat him, Luffy said coldly. What is this? Don't you want me to help you? Are you trying to kill me by sending me this bean? Luffy used such a fierce method before, and suddenly gave himself another bean. Crocodile inevitably won't win over suspicion. Could this be poison? Kill you? Luffy seems to have heard some big joke. Do you think that with your current state, do I need to be so troublesome? Crocodile meal. Indeed, as far as my current situation is concerned. It has become a fish on the chopping board, ready to be slaughtered and unable to move. Want to kill myself? Why bother? Think about it. Crocodile swallowed the beans anyway, but at the moment he ate the fairy beans. A finish appears on Crocodile's body. The wound on Crocodile's body is actually healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not only that, the physical exhaustion of being locked up in Impel Down. It's all gone too. The current Crocodile can be described as completely new. If not still wearing seastone handcuffs, he even has a feeling that he wants to soar into the sky. Injuries, physical strength, spirit, and all other values recovered on the spot. Feeling the sudden recovery of physical strength and the healed scars on his body, it is impossible for Crocodile not to be shocked. What is this? Luffy gave himself a bean just now, only then will there be the current scene. Could it be? Is it because of the bean? Crocodile's heart surged, and he turned his head sharply to stare at Luffy in front of him. Is this his method? Have you recovered your strength? Luffy said lightly, he wouldn't hurt Crocodile for no reason. After all, if this guy is really beaten by himself.
Isn't Summit War missing a big boost? Luffy seems to have cut more than 30 knives, almost all within a controllable range.
At the same time, the last fairy bean, it's a combination of kindness and might. The former makes the Crocodile shock his own means, and the latter makes the Crocodile shock his own abilities. What is this bean? It's so amazing, Crocodile couldn't help asking. What you eat is just an ordinary bean, and there are several thousand caddies on my boat, not enough to be a minister. Luffy explained. How many kilos? Crocodile was a little sluggish. Such miraculous beans should be the rarest of the rare, the best of the best. How did you get to Luffy? Become a bad street existence. Even calculated in kilograms, you got the unit of measurement wrong. It's as if someone asks you how many houses you have, and you answer 3 pounds for the real estate certificate. Luffy's words also made Nami, Robin and others smile. My own cheap captain, it's really getting weirder and weirder. Luffy stepped forward. Uncuff the seastone handcuffs to the cured Crocodile himself. You're not afraid of seastone? Watching Luffy uncuff himself with his own eyes, he thought that Luffy is a person with the ability of rubber fruit. How is he not afraid of seastone? Is it strange? Luffy doesn't care. It's the shocking bean just now, and Luffy's ability not to be afraid of seastone. How can Crocodile not be unusual? Now that I have recovered from my injuries and recovered my physical strength, once I break free from the seastone handcuffs and let the birds fly in the sky, you are not afraid that I will capture you immediately and force you to let me go? Crocodile stared at Luffy, who was close at hand with the eyes of an old fox. If you don't want to die, you can try. Face off against the crocodile at hand. Luffy couldn't help showing no signs of fear, even took a step forward. Stand closer to him. At the same time, a faint wave of haki was released from Luffy's body. It's like standing on the top of a mountain and looking down at the whole sea. This powerful pressure, let Crocodile at the moment, is like facing a tsunami. Even the front folded hair began to move automatically without wind. This situation hastened down again. Feel the oppressive haki in Luffy. Crocodile's eyelids twitched again. Change. The Straw Hat Kid has really changed. Cannot help but means and ability. Even the momentum, tone, and demeanor have changed. It's like a new account has transformed into a full-level account. It seems that it has only been half a year since I was arrested in this large submarine prison. Just half a year. What the hell is Luffy going through outside? How did his strength become so powerful? Take a breath. Crocodile wants to find out more and more about Luffy's past 6 months. However, he still suppressed his eagerness to move. At the same time, he responded to Luffy and said, "Okay, I admit it, I can't help you now." Obvious. Crocodile was not about to do anything. He has a gut feeling. Just move a finger yourself. I'm afraid that the next second it will be me who falls to the ground. This Straw Hat Kid, is he on? The strength has grown too fast. You took me out of Impel Down. In exchange, I will sell my strength for you today. This is a sale. After the sale, I will get what I want. Crocodile extended his palm towards Luffy. Make a deal. Luffy clapped Crocodile's palms together. Treat Jinbe. Luffy can be nice to him, but old foxes like Crocodile only use the strongest attitude to make him surrender to you. Otherwise, must be a hazard. That's why Luffy came up and gave Crocodile a head-on blow. He didn't expect to convince Crocodile with words. Now Kidar is willing to work hard. It also saves the time-consuming process. In Impel Down, except Jinbe and Crocodile, Luffy turned again. Have to say, Impel Down was supposed to house the most vicious criminals. Especially this last layer. Luffy simply looked at the cages. Almost all of them were imprisoned with prehistoric beasts. Everyone releases boundless evil spirits, which are terrifying and shocking, with unprecedented powerful haki, which makes people's blood coagulate and they can't breathe. If it weren't for the strong cage and sea stone, these monsters may have jumped out to rebel. Certainly, among these strong men who are shoulder to shoulder with fierce beasts. Luffy found the beast of beasts. The fierce aura he carried all over his body even made Luffy frown, and he felt threatened. Notice, before that, even the crocodile, who is close at hand, can't change Luffy's color at all. This person in front of you, on Crocodile, Luffy was determined. Only the strong ones at the Admiral level. Only then will Luffy be aware of the danger. Luffy walked to the edge of the cage. He looked into the cage with his eyes. Next second, inside the cage, a pair of scarlet eyes were raised, with endless vicissitudes in those eyes and the aura of seeing through the sea. It makes Luffy feel like being stared at by 100 sea kings. By dim light, Luffy saw clearly the beast inside the cage. He has disheveled black hair, several scars on his face, and is wearing a prison uniform. Even though he is shackled all over his body, only his eyes bring a captivating light. A name suddenly entered Luffy's mind. Bullet. Formerly known as Douglas Bullet, he is the fanatical boss in the theatrical version. Known as the heir of the devil, he was once a crew member of the One Piece Roger. Then, after Roger turned himself in and was executed, Marine not only launched a hunt for the mother of the evil Blood Ace, but even the remnants of Roger's pirate group were also targeted by Marine. Rayleigh, Jabba, Crocus, Bullet were not spared. As a result, the Roger pirates fell into a slump. Rayleigh went into hiding, and the first bar disappeared, and Crocus waited for him at the one in the first half. Bullet was besieged by Marine's Admiral-level Buster Call. In the end, he just spelled out all the Marines in the entire Buster Call. Bullet was subdued and imprisoned in Eternal Hell, the last floor of the large submarine prison. And that Buster Call, apart from a badly injured Admiral and a handful of Vice Admirals, returned to Naval Headquarters. Almost all other Marines were wiped out. This is all the work of Bullet alone. Rating Bullet with Devil's Air, on this brilliant record. It also deserves such praise. At that time, it attracted the attention of people all over the world. The strength of a crew member of the Roger Pirates is so terrifying. 0. Seeking flowers. Wouldn't it be a mess if the whole ship got together? Oh, it's you, Luffy said, staring at Bullet. Bullet's scarlet eyes couldn't move away from Luffy's body. Little devil, do you know me? How could I not have heard of the name of the heir of the devil? Luffy has never heard of Bullet's name, and even this time he came here only for Crocodile and Jinbe. Bullet is just a windfall. But talking nonsense with open eyes is not a problem for Luffy at all. I didn't expect that I have been imprisoned in Impel Down for more than 20 years, and someone still remembers my name. Boy, it seems that you still know me, so I won't kill you. Someone as murderous as Bullet, already bloodthirsty to death. Now there has been no blood licking from knife wounds for more than 20 years. It is impossible to say that the hands do not itch. But it seems that Luffy actually knows his name. Bullet didn't do anything either. How narcissistic do you have to be? When Luffy heard this, he looked at Bullet and asked. What did you say? Bullet shook his momentum and landed on Luffy. Instantly, Luffy's hair was fluttering and her top was shaking. Even the straw hat was up and down. However, Bullet who was going to attack Luffy. His eyes were surprised to see the straw hat behind Luffy. Boy, where did you get that straw hat from? Bullet asked, pointing to the straw hat behind Luffy. Needless to say the origin of this straw hat. The items that Roger used to wear when he was young, and later left to Shanks. In the Windmill Village, Shanks gave himself the straw hat again. As the crew of One Piece Roger, even being locked up in Impel Down for years. Bullet recognized the straw hat immediately. A playful smile appeared on Luffy's face. Notice. Bullet's identity is quite special, and his straw hat's identity is also quite special. And this connection makes it even more special. This straw hat, don't you, the crew of Roger, the One Piece, not recognize it? Luffy asked back. Of course I do. Tell me quickly, where did you get this straw hat? Bullet's breathing became a little short of breath. Bell-like eyes stared at Luffy without letting go. Of course it was given to me by your former partner, otherwise, do you think I will get a straw hat? Shanks is Roger's trainee, and Bullet was once Roger's crew member. Shanks is not an exaggeration to say that he is Bullet's partner. Luffy said. Straw hat, straw hat. Bullet stared at the straw hat in Luffy's hand. No one knows better than them what kind of meaning this straw hat contains. This represents the token of inheriting Roger's mantle and carrying the will of the pirates. Even if Bullet is capable, Marine can't do anything to him. It can be boiled down to the bottom line. Bullet has always considered himself a member of the Roger Pirates. Otherwise, he would not have been executed because of Roger. He lost his temper and was besieged by Marine and locked in the eternal hell. Bullet kept talking to himself, chanting the name of the straw hat in Luffy's hand. This straw hat, it was given to Luffy by his friends. Who is the partner? Mr. Rayleigh, or Mr. Jabba, anyway. As long as he inherits Roger's will, even if he goes uphill or downhill, Bullet will do whatever he wants. You can get this straw hat from your friends, enough to conclude that Luffy has the ability to excel. Then, he seemed to remember something, in the early years. I heard that Captain Roger had a wife and gave birth to a son for him. Add this straw hat in your hand, as well as. Luffy seems to be in his early 18s or early 19s. An absurd conclusion came to Bullet's mind. Bullet looked up. Bullet's heart began to beat faster. No way. It can't really be such a coincidence. I was actually in prison. I met him. This moment. Bullet's thoughts have long been wandering. He could hardly believe his research, 20 years old. Straw hats carrying their will. So far. Thump. Bullet knelt down on the ground without saying a word. His kneeling. Luffy was taken aback for a second. Then. Bullet kowtows to Luffy 3 times, head hit the ground. The ground is buzzing. My lord, Bullet is in trouble. Bullet knocked his head 3 times and shouted. The chains on his body were rattling because of his violent kowtows. Little lord. Luffy wondered. Very good, it's fine to kowtow to myself, and even call the young master directly. I can't afford it, young master, don't you know me? Your father Roger is my captain. It can be said that without Captain Roger, I would not be where I am today. You are my young master. Bullet paused, and then he said anxiously, Young master, I hope you can follow Captain Roger's will and walk towards the final island of Raftel, and become the next brand new One Piece. 8071. Me, the noble son of the Revolutionary Army. Listen to what Bullet has to say. Luffy finally figured it out. Emotions. Bullet sees himself as Roger's son, please. Ace is Roger's son, okay, but think about it too. With this straw hat, and a similar age, it's okay to be misunderstood. You're mistaken, I'm not Roger's orphan. Luffy shook her head, correcting Bullet. You are not? Bullet, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly raised his head, his eyes full of doubts. That's right, you've got the wrong person, Luffy replied. Then where did your straw hat come from? Seeing that he had identified the wrong person, Bullet was even more anxious at the moment. He is not the orphan of Captain Roger, so where did he get his straw hat? First, the straw hat was given to me by your people, it's true. Secondly, I came to your Impel Down, and it is precisely for your so-called young master. This moment, Luffy starts to explain to Bullet why he's here. Now, Marine is already using Ace as a bait to wipe out the Whitebeard pirates in Marineford. This time I came to Impel Down. Just want to rescue the prisoners in this Impel Down. Take them to Marineford. Do something amazing. It turns out that Ace is the captain's orphan, but what does he have to do with the Whitebeard pirates? Why did the Whitebeard pirates go to rescue Ace? I have been locked up in Impel Down for many years, and the Bullet information is jammed. Not only have I just learned of Ace's identity, but I am also very puzzled about Ace and the Whitebeard pirates. It's too late to explain, you just need to know that now Marine has captured Ace and is going to execute Ace at noon today. Our time is running out. Luffy said it was too late to explain. Quickly, let me out quickly, the captain's orphan, I have to keep it. Bullet's eyes suddenly turned red. Roger was executed by Marine. 230, he did not prevent success, nowadays. Marine wants to execute the captain's son again in Marineford. Repeat the old trick, if you succeed in making Marine. Bullet dare not meet Roger even in the underworld. You really want to go with me? Bullet's strength is just a glimpse of himself. Luffy can sense the clues. That's right, Bullet clenched his fists and said. Okay, since that's the case, let me see the methods of you, the heir of the devil. Luffy said nothing, also opened Bullet's prison. Since then, another prehistoric beast, released by Luffy. He only opened 3 cages, Bullet, Crocodile and Jinbe. As for the rest, almost all the people on the 6th floor are rebellious. Luffy doesn't expect them to be able to help at critical times. Besides, time is ticking, the prisoners above must be released as soon as possible. Bullet has a bad temper and a very irritable temperament. Originally intended to head straight for Marineford. Go straight to Wanlong. Luffy stopped him. And knowing the truth, it is useless to go alone, you must take all the prisoners with you. Bullet also suddenly realized. He remembered the scene when he singled out Marine Buster Call back then. Although it sounds shocking, in fact, a failure is inevitable in the end. And in this level of Impel Down, there are more than 20 years. With the Straw Hat Pirates and Bullet, everyone returned to the 5th floor of Impel Down. From now on, free all prisoners above the 5th floor. This matter. Luffy to Zoro, Sanji, Usopp to do it. These prisoners are all rebellious people, wanting them to help themselves. It is not an easy task. Luffy gave everyone an order. If the released prisoners are willing to participate in this Marineford war against Marine. After the end, Sky High let the birds fly, but if they are released, they are unwilling to participate in the war. Kill. Luffy is only one word. I have been practicing on Thousand Sunny for a long time. Both Zoro and Sanji's strength has been greatly improved. Dealing with the prisoners on the 6th floor may be a bit difficult. But this is the 5th floor. The two of them could almost push each other across. Moreover, the recent battles have been too frequent, and the City of Water has killed all the way to Sabodi Archipelago. Everyone was also affected by Luffy's decisiveness. The wicked temperament has been fully formed. Zoro Sanji gets ready straight away. As long as someone disagrees, meeting is a knife. No haggling with these prisoners at all, when releasing prisoners here. Luffy is going to the 5.5th floor of hell, it's here. There is a mysterious entrance called Shemale Paradise. Luffy looked around. I searched around. No entrance was found either. This 5.5-story prison, it must be too secretive. Because the entrance is too hidden, so he smashed all the walls around the 5.5th floor. And among the ruins, Luffy found her way to Shemale Paradise. Where is Ivankov? Luffy grabbed a ladyboy and said coldly. This ladyboy was picked up by Luffy with one hand, like a little jay, her legs kept bouncing. Its face turned purple, apparently about to suffocate. In Shemale Paradise, the Shemale yelled out of breath. Luffy casually tossed the ladyboy aside. He strode into the Shemale Paradise with great strides. Along the way, Luffy also met a lot of ladyboys. They stared at Luffy warily one by one. There was a lot of unkindness on his face. Announce, let Ivankov come out, and say, the noble son of the Revolutionary Army is here. Luffy waved his hand and let the ladyboys report. What are you? How dare you order us? Hearing Luffy's words, the ladyboys looked unhappy. When you come up and use them, who do you think they are? They didn't even think about sending a message. Forget it, it looks like I should go see him in person. Luffy thought for a while that time waits for no one, and it is best to find Ivankov as soon as possible. What an arrogant boy, let's go together and subdue this ignorant guy. The ladyboys rushed up, covered in rouge powder, and rushed up with an indignant look on their faces. Luffy frowned slightly, he didn't want to do it. But now it seems that it can't be fixed, to be honest. Deal with Shemale. He's a little dirty, this group of ladyboys. Dress up to the nines. It's like a eunuch wearing a coquettish costume and shouting, little brother, let's play with you. Look, Luffy has a chill, goosebumps all over my body. Consider quick fixes. Luffy took a direct step forward. Conqueror's Haki was released by him. Boom, Luffy now has perfected Haki's control, just a little play. The transvestites in front of them had white eyes, their faces froze, and they all lay on the ground. The look of shouting before was gone. Certainly. Among these Shemale, it is not without masters, 3 or 5 more held off the impact of Luffy's slightly unleashed Haki. But they are also shaky, one is about to fall to the ground. Luffy walked between them, then walked into the Shemale Paradise. But it hasn't waited for Luffy to step into the Shemale Paradise. A sour voice came from inside. Who dares to break into my fairy paradise? Don't you want to live? The person who came had purple hair, painted purple lips, and obviously had a fat waist, yet he was still wearing tights. His thick thighs were covered with stockings, and even a few hairs protruded from the inside of the stockings. No doubt. This eunuch-like guy is the Shemale King Ivankov. The behind-the-scenes master of Shemale Paradise. One of the leaders of the Revolutionary Army. I saw it on TV before, but I didn't have a sense of substitution at that time. Now when we actually meet, Luffy just realized, what is a Shemale? Everyone else is pure man. They're pure Shemale. Luffy felt sick. Oh shit. How did Ivankov get into the position of leader of the Revolutionary Army? Besides, those revolutionary troops, like Sabo, Dragon, etc., how could they not vomit against Ivankov every day? Luffy regretted it a little. If I had known, I would not have come to this 5.5 story prison. It's so disgusting. What about you? Are you the one who overthrew my people? Seeing Luffy staring at him, Ivankov quickly averted his eyes and said nothing, thinking that he was blinded by the charm he unleashed. I overturned it. Luffy waved his hand, not looking at Ivankov at all. HMPH, you are honest, but this is not a place to play wild. Turn me into a Shemale. Worthy of being the king of Shemale. I just want to turn others into a Shemale. Ivankov is ready to do it without saying a word. Wait a minute. Luffy stopped the Monster King's attack. What, admit defeat? Ivankov sneered. I thought how powerful it was, but it turned out that it was just a person who was afraid of death. No, if you really turned me into a monster, I'm afraid you'll return to the Revolutionary Army, and it won't be easy to explain to your master. Luffy said with a kind smile. Revolutionary Army? I don't know what you're talking about. When he heard the word, Revolutionary Army, Ivankov panicked and quickly denied it. This identity, he has been hiding it all the time. If it is really known by Marine, I'm afraid this big submarine prison can't hold him. Notice, Ivankov couldn't be more clear about the current status of the Revolutionary Army. This Impel Down is Marine's domain, a little careless. I am afraid that I will fall into the abyss of eternal doom. It seems that you dare not admit your identity. Luffy noticed the flicker of panic on Ivankov's face. Stinky boy, don't be arrogant. I wanted to turning you into a Shemale. It seems that it is impossible to keep you now. Knowing that he is the identity of the Revolutionary Army, no matter what he said today, Luffy can't let Luffy leave the Shemale Paradise. Ivankov has already become murderous. But just when Ivankov was about to kill him, Luffy's wide eyes raised silently. He said, don't you want to know why I know your identity? I don't need. Ivankov denied. Kill this guy. There will be no worries. Oh, so you need it, Luffy corrected him. I said I don't need it. Ivankov then denied it. No, you do, Luffy continued. This person, why don't you play your cards according to the routine? I need you, sir. I don't need it. Ivankov was furious. Couldn't you just follow my instructions? Luffy became furious and slapped Ivankov on the face. This slap goes down. A slap print was printed on Ivankov's face. He rolled a few times on the ground before he stabilized his body. Ivankov's jaw was pulled crookedly, and he insisted on ninja pain to correct his jaw. You. What is your identity? Really, after the slap, Ivankov was much more honest. Let me tell you, my last name is Monkey. Luffy gave him a hint. Monkey? What the hell? Ivankov didn't react for a while, but soon, he raised his head abruptly, staring at Luffy in front of him. To know. The surname prefix of the head dragon of their Revolutionary Army is Monkey. You. Ivankov pointed at Luffy, speechless for a while. Yes. He realized it. The Luffy in front of him was named Monkey, and he knew that he was a revolutionary soldier. Is he the son of a dragon? May I have your name? Ivankov asked anxiously. Luffy, Monkey D. Luffy. Luffy gave his full name. Are you really the son of the dragon? Ivankov opened his mouth wide, although I don't want to admit it, it's really what you think. Luffy said. Long, he actually has a son. Ivankov really didn't know anything about it. This is Impel Down. Have you been imprisoned in Impel Down too? Also, what are you doing in my Ladyboy Paradise? How did you find it? To this place? Why are there so many problems? Take your people and escape. Luffy picked his ears and answered, confirmed Luffy's identity. Ivankov was ecstatic. Dragon has a son. This guy is really not kind. Actually hiding so many things from them, all the time. Ivankov is worried about being the future leader of their Revolutionary Army. Now, those worries simply don't exist anymore, immediately. Ivankov asked all the people in the Demon Paradise to pack their bags and prepared to follow Luffy without hesitation. Seeing that Ivankov trusts himself so much with just a surname, Luffy also changed his previous chill. He looked at Ivankov in surprise and asked, are you so relieved? I'm very relieved. You are my young master now. From now on, whatever you say will be what you say. Ivankov, will follow your example. Ivankov immediately expressed his attitude to Luffy. It was the second time Luffy was called the young master. I was wrong before. This time, really not mistaken. In addition to Luffy's status as the 5th Emperor soon, he is also the noble son of the Revolutionary Army. 2.8. This is an indisputable fact. Let me introduce you to a few people. Luffy brought the troop from Shemale Paradise to the front of the Straw Hat Pirates, and introduced the identities of his crew to everyone. And at the same time when Luffy incorporated this troop from the Shemale Paradise. Zoro and Sanji, Usopp and Frankie et al. They also opened all the prisons on the 5th floor. Prisoners thought they were imprisoned in this dark Impel Down, and since then they have no connection with the outside world. But they really didn't expect it. There is still a chance to escape from prison today. Able to get out of here, the prisoners are naturally happy. And for Zoro and Sanji their request. All the prisoners are also very good. If you want others to help you, you must at least help others. And this time the enemy. It was the Marine who imprisoned them in the first place. Think of Marine. Many prisoners clenched their fists. Full of resentment. I can't wait to tear Marine's hands away. Most of the prisoners are willing to help them fight the Marine. Certainly, there were a few little hiccups along the way. Some prisoners made trouble on purpose. They are completely dissatisfied with Zoro. Pity. Before Luffy had given orders, Zoro almost killed the prisoner in one hit. Seeing this, the other prisoners who want to rebel will put an example here. Immediately became honest. Freed the prisoners on the 5th floor. Everyone continued to release the prisoners on the 4th floor. It stands to reason that there is nothing to say about releasing prisoners. But it's on the 4th floor. Luffy met a man with a red nose, wearing a prison uniform, long blue hair, and dressed as Oda. Buggy. See each other. Luffy's eyes lit up. According to the legend, when the lucky color Haki points to the full level, he will have a man who will compete with him for the throne of One Piece.
He is also in Impel Down. Open black lens bracket 072 close black lens bracket touch and fire. The strongest warden of Impel Down, Magellan.
Buggy. A man who rose to fame after Summit War. Why do you say he became famous after the war? First, after clamoring for Whitebeard, Whitebeard ignored the past and even took the initiative to win over. Second, insulting Shanks. Who would dare not give Shanks face? He happened to meet a Buggy god tier, not only refused to give it, he even threw it on the ground and stomped on it twice, which caused an uproar from countless people. Third, even in the face of the world's #1 swordsman Hawkeye, the two sides fought back and forth. Even Mihawk was pointed at the nose by Zhangji and scolded, "Your swordsmanship can't help me." Fourth, there are countless little brothers, and the combined rewards of all the little brothers are almost more than 2 billion. Can ordinary pirates do it? This is the man who wants to compete with Luffy for the throne of One Piece, the coveted king of the world. If it were an ordinary person, would he have such courage? Buggy was originally a supporting role, a nobody in East Blue, and the captain of the clown pirates. But there are no absolutes. Every dog has his day. Even if you can't think of flying, it's hard, and Summit War. That was the turning point for Buggy. The aura of Buggy god tier in Summit War is even brighter than Luffy as the protagonist. Slashed by Hawkeye, flashed by Kizaru, hammered by Akainu, frozen by Aokiji in Summit War. Suffering many setbacks and not dying. In the end, he helped Luffy rescue Ace. After intercepting a camera phone bug, in front of people all over the world, put on Marine's robe, draw a huge X on the big Justice. Such a move that shocked the world. It's hard to make Buggy famous. As expected, because of his extraordinary performance in Summit War. The title of Shichibukai falls to Buggy from then on. Buggy reached the pinnacle of his life and became a new generation of 7 warlords of the sea who exist to check and balance the 4 emperors on the sea. The strength is not enough, and the weakness is too weak. But he was still able to serve as Shichibukai, and he accepted countless little fans, and was even named by Marine as an intern on the evil pirate ship. This is Buggy's legendary life. Certainly, this is something. Luffy looked at the red nose in front of him, and the red nose also looked at Luffy. You are. You are. You are. Buggy pointed at Luffy, and was stunned for a long time before saying his name. You are Luffy, the Straw Hat Kid. In East Blue. Of course Buggy has seen Luffy. Even his 08 Straw Hat pirates fought against Buggy's clown pirates. Certainly, at that time, the strength of both sides was generally not strong. Luffy just came out. Still a stunned young man. Buggy is just a little pirate with a bounty of 15 million Baileys. The weak cannot be the weak ones. Follow the storyline in the original book. Now Luffy is supposed to stir up the bloodbath of Impel Down with Buggy. Finally arrived at Marineford with the prisoners. But now the situation is different. Luffy has already been offered a reward of 2 billion by Marine, vaguely becoming the existence of the 5 emperors in the first half of the Grand Line. Such strength. Such a bounty. Luffy's fame. It has already caused a sensation in the whole world. Buggy naturally also got news in newspapers about Luffy. When seeing Luffy grow step by step, Buggy that's very jealous. But jealousy is jealousy. He could only watch helplessly. Did not think of. Luffy, who played back and forth with himself in East Blue at the beginning, has become a person who makes the new world boss pay attention to him. 5 emperors. This is the absolute title for a group of pirates. That is the goal that countless people spend their whole lives chasing. And how old is Luffy? 17 or 18 years old. His future prospects. Unlimited, we meet again. Buggy has mixed flavors. There is no longer the appearance of clamoring before. Instead, he behaved himself and stood in front of Luffy honestly. Meet Buggy. Zoro grinned. Aren't you the captain of the clown pirates? Why is this Impel Down? At that time, you seem to have caused us a lot of trouble.
Nami rubbed his hands. The clown was myself. Buggy was silent, and now Luffy could crush himself to death with one hand.
He didn't dare to touch his brows. After all, life is precious. This thing is still no joke. Luffy didn't make it difficult for Buggy, after all, he is a living creature. Buggy, how did you get in here? Asked Luffy. Buggy thought for a while, and told the news that he accidentally dug into the secret passage of Marine when he was digging for treasure, and thus got caught. Ha ha ha, his words immediately made Zoro, Nami, Usopp and others laugh from ear to ear. Buggy also turned red. This is really embarrassing. Okay, stop laughing. Luffy stopped everyone's laughter. We are planning to escape from prison and leave this Impel Down. Would you like to come with us? Call him. Zoro and Nami were taken aback. They remembered Buggy's current strength. Say it bluntly. Been on Thousand Sunny for a while. The speed of practice is multiplied and improved. Nami's combat power is higher than Buggy's. Is it suitable, Luffy? Sanji asked worriedly. Why is it inappropriate? Maybe Buggy will bring us a different kind of surprise, or unexpected luck. Luffy giggled and smiled. Okay, then take him with you. Luffy said so, and Nami, Zoro and others did not object. Luffy agreed upon hearing it. Buggy is happy on the branch. If only there were thighs like Luffy. If I want to escape from this Impel Down, it is simply a piece of cake. Then, Buggy hugged Luffy's leg without hesitation. 10 strokes fixed his appearance. The prisoners on the 5th, 4th, and 3rd floors were all released by Luffy. This moment, the number of people has reached 2,000. Do not misunderstand. The 1st floor has the most prisoners, but their strength is the weakest. Then came the 2nd floor, the 3rd floor, and the 4th floor. And so on. Further down, the fewer the number of people. But on the contrary, no matter whether it is reward or strength, these aspects will be higher. How many people are imprisoned in the eternal hell on the 6th floor? But they just pop out. They're all sensationalists. When Luffy freed the prisoners on the 3rd floor. Finally, over there in the control room all over Impel Down, their people sensed it. It's not good, Warden, these prisoners have escaped. Deputy Warden Hanayabel was on duty in the control room. But because he was so bored, he dozed off and fell asleep. But it happened to be because of the time of napping. The entire Impel Down was in turmoil. See this scene. Deputy Warden Hanayabel was dumbfounded. Quickly reported the news to the Warden Magellan, who was squatting in the toilet. What? Did the prisoner escape? The moment I heard the news. The Warden Magellan quickly tidied himself up, then ran out of the toilet, grabbed Hanayabel by the collar and said, How long have the prisoners escaped? As the warden, he is naturally responsible for suppressing these prisoners. But he didn't think of it. Just today, just when Marshal Sengoku transferred their Impel Down soldiers to Marineford, the prisoners escaped collectively. How can this be good? Anyway, the turmoil on the Impel Down side cannot affect the Marineford side either. Once impressed, take the blame yourself. I just dozed off. Hanayabel spoke the truth. Such a big thing happened. Do you still have the mind to take a nap? Magellan slapped Hanayabel across the face, although no effort. It also made a slap mark on Hanayabel's face. Hanayabel looked down. He also knows. This is what I did wrong. Forget it. The top priority is to suppress these prisoners. It has already happened, and Magellan doesn't care about it anymore. Hanayabel, gather all the troops in the entire Impel Down, and go with me to suppress the prisoners. Magellan's side hastily moved. All of a sudden, a full 3,000 soldiers were mobilized for the entire Impel Down. The usual Impel Down is guarded by 30,000 soldiers, and there are 70 or 80 warships guarding the periphery. Otherwise, how can it be called an undersea prison that no one can break? Nowadays, almost all of the 80 warships were transferred. Only 10% of the 30,000 soldiers remained. Suddenly it was infiltrated by some people who plotted against the law. Magellan was also caught off guard, simply as the warden for many years. Magellan still has a good hand, immediately close all intersections. He even led 3,000 soldiers to suppress them in the direction of the prisoners. How many of us are there? After liberating the 3rd prison, Luffy asked Buggy behind him. Have to say, Luffy did a great job bringing Buggy over. Now Buggy, to please Luffy, he is the author, maintain relationships among prisoners. Because of his existence, prisoners start following Buggy lead. And Buggy, it is Luffy who leads the way, almost 2,000 people. Buggy hurried back to report. Are there only 2,000 people? I estimate that the 2nd and 1st floors should have the most people. Luffy thought for a moment. That's right, Buggy answered with a nod. The troop continues to move forward. Suddenly, a suspension bridge appeared in front of everyone. This suspension bridge is very high, with a length of 500 meters. It will take a few minutes to walk across it. Not only that, the bridge is only wide enough for 2 adults to walk side by side. If 2,000 people want to pass, the time needs to be improved a lot. Under this bridge, It is hot and thick magma. Once it falls into it, the consequences will be disastrous. Have thousands of troops crossed the single plank bridge? Luffy narrowed his eyes. Just Luffy when preparing for the prisoners to step on the single plank bridge. Clang. The huge single plank bridge suddenly broke. Followed by a cold voice. HMPH, if you want to leave the big undersea prison, you have asked me if Magellan agrees. At this time, Magellan is warden, just across from Luffy et al. And this single plank bridge collapsed, and that's exactly what Magellan did. Luffy and the 2,000 prisoners behind him looked up. Notice that the person on the other side is actually with the warden Magellan. Many prisoners gasped. No, he was imprisoned in Impel Down for a long time. To say they are most afraid of people, nothing beats Magellan in front of me. When they were prisoners before, these pirates were often suppressed by Magellan. And Magellan stood in the position of the enemy, it is said. Magellan's strength is not weaker than anyone in Marine's top management. Otherwise, Sengoku won't feel comfortable putting him in this very important Impel Down. 2,000 prisoners were terrified. I couldn't help but take a step or two back. Magellan. Warden of Impel Down. Poison fruit ability user. Just a few names, give the prisoners a fatal blow. Let them not be able to raise the mind of fighting at all. It seems that we have encountered an enemy. Luffy naturally knows Magellan and his lay fruit. He thought Magellan and the others wouldn't be able to find out about this jailbreak. But now it seems. I think too much, they have already ambushed here at the suspension bridge. Buggy, is there another road nearby? Luffy asked Buggy. Not for the time being. If you want to leave Impel Down, you must cross this single plank bridge. Buggy replied. Looks like Magellan has to deal with this. Luffy said calmly. Magellan is certainly strong. Although it has the strength of Admiral level, it can be said as if there is no one here. Whether it's a Smile or a Green Bull, you can even compete with Magellan. Not to mention, I'm about to do it myself, he thought about it. No matter who wins Yishao and Linyu, they will probably be entangled with Magellan for a while. I am different. Use God's false vision. He can even achieve the unexpected ability like the last time he competed with Kizaru. Magellan, let me tell you, are you stupid? If we had all stepped on the single plank bridge just now and you were doing it, wouldn't all of us here be killed? Luffy called out to Magellan on the other side, you are, Straw Hat. Blind to Luffy for a moment, then immediately recognized his identity. Straw Hat Luffy. 050. Why is he here? As for Luffy being offered a reward of 2 billion, it will soon become the first half of the Grand Line 5 Emperors. Almost famous in the sea, how could Magellan not know? But, he didn't expect that Impel Down was jailbroken this time. It turned out to be Luffy's doing. This guy, what does he want to do? Straw Hat Luffy. What do you want to do when you come to Impel Down? Magellan shouted at Luffy. At that time, you will know. I heard that this is the only way to go to the upper floor. Since you are blocking my way, I have to take you down to open the way. Even in the abyss below the feet, there is thick magma under the abyss. Luffy just jumped. His figure accompanied him and landed steadily on the opposite bank. In front of Magellan, for Luffy's strength, Magellan knows it all. He is like an enemy. Hurry up and wait, treat Magellan. Luffy is not soft on his hands. The second gear, the opening of Armament Haki, Observation Haki. Step on the Marine 6 styles. Luffy disappeared with a whoosh. Throw a punch at Magellan. Magellan was ready, also hastened to deal with Luffy's attack. The two sides smashed together immediately, machine gun. Luffy swung a shadowless fist in his hand. Although Magellan is powerful, his physical skills are a bit poor. This first collision just got 2 punches from Luffy. Poison Dragon. As soon as the expert makes a move, he will know if there is one. Magellan's poisonous fruit ability is very powerful, and he has already cultivated it to the peak. Release now. The momentum is incomparably astonishing. I saw a green dragon released from Magellan's hand. Straight to Luffy coming. The poisonous dragon carries a terrifying evil spirit, whoever touches it will die, and those who touch it will be seriously injured. Pity. Even the most powerful poisonous water, but blocked by Luffy's Armament Haki. Covering Armament Haki's fist, Luffy punched the dragon through with one punch. One poisonous dragon is not enough, let's get a few more. Luffy gestures to Magellan to use some powerful abilities. This dragon. No need to copy with delusions, as you wish. Magellan crossed his hands on his chest, and his feet were instantly touched by poisonous gas. Immediately afterwards, a total of 108 green dragons rose from the ground. This moment, Magellan is like the master of this world. Under the care of his poisonous fruit, even the fiery red magma was dyed green by him. Well done. Ding. That's when Magellan zoomed in. The delusion in Luffy's eyes, already opened, he waited. It's Magellan's big move. This moment, Luffy crossed his arms over his chest too. The emerald green venom spread all over his body, and at the same time, 108 emerald green dragons spread out from Luffy's feet. What a sudden scene. Magellan, who was the warden, was stunned, and the movement of reading the article in his hand also stopped, and he was dumbfounded. Open black lens bracket 073 close black lens bracket go to Marineford, the white group that is gone. Watching a total of 108 emerald green dragons appear in Luffy's hands. Magellan was shocked. Poison fruit. Why did his own poisonous fruit come out of Luffy's hands? The unwritten rules of the sea Magellan is not ignorant. At the same time, it is impossible to have two identical devil fruits. Why would Luffy use his own poisonous fruit? This puzzled Magellan. This moment, Magellan stood there dumbfounded. Even the reading of the big move in your hand, give up. Chance. The master fights, and the winner can be determined in seconds. Not to mention, Magellan in front of him stood in front of him so stupidly. Luffy pointed one hand at Magellan. 108 dragons bombarded Magellan. Venom flew across the scene. Some fell to the ground, and some stuck to the wall. Some fell into the magma. There was a sizzling sound. Magellan is originally a poisonous fruit ability user. His own poison is of course ineffective against himself. Don't forget, Luffy didn't expect to use poison against Magellan. A layer of Armament Haki, which appears on Luffy's arm. The current Luffy's strength has already reached its peak. This is the ability he obtained by drawing before. Marine 6 styles with Armament Haki and top-notch power. Under the addition of rubber fruit, this punch from Luffy. The force has caught up to Garp. As good as Magellan was, he couldn't stop Luffy at this moment. Punch in the past. Magellan's face was sunken, just heard a bang. Magellan flew back abruptly, hitting the wall heavily with his body. He printed a human-shaped imprint on the walls, and Magellan. With a double eye, I have passed out in a coma, Warden of Impel Down, the strongest Magellan. He and Luffy were dealt with on the spot in less than 3 rounds. This scene. The 3,000 guards on the scene were shocked. Everyone's face was full of horror. That's their Warden Magellan. Such a powerful Magellan. In Luffy's hands, it doesn't take 3 rounds at all. How strong is this Straw Hat Luffy? Countless Marines are in awe of Luffy. There is no slightest contempt at all. They naturally knew that Luffy was offered a reward of 2 billion by Marine. Is this the strength of 2 billion pirates? In the past, it was just a rumor. Nowadays, they finally saw their true colors, powerful. Too strong. Not just Marine. For the 2,000 prisoners, they have always been self-proclaimed Renluo. Can be locked in Impel Down after all, it is enough to illustrate their strength. Everyone is extraordinary, but let's be honest, no matter how arrogant they are. They also had a visceral sense of dread when facing Magellan. Magellan. Warden of Impel Down. The strength of strength does not lie in how much strength he possesses. It's his poisonous fruit, which makes people unable to live or die. Almost all the prisoners at the scene have experienced the sense of fear that Magellan brought to them. Nowadays, Magellan was killed by Luffy so quickly. Many inmates stared at Luffy dumbfounded. His strength is actually so powerful. There is no harm without comparison. The prisoners at the scene suddenly realized their own shortcomings. Even those prisoners who were secretly preparing to rebel and mutiny, who refused to obey discipline. He also quickly put away his little thoughts. Such a strong person is in front of them. Who dares to rebel? Once caught, I'm afraid it's worse than dying. For a while, a small number of prisoners who had a wrong idea also calmed down. Magellan was hors de combat. The backbone is defeated. The remaining Marines had no intention of fighting. Bang 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 bang. It is not known who dropped the weapon first. The army was defeated like a mountain. 3,000 Marines dropped their weapons one after another. He threw away his helmet and armor and fled in despair. For these fleeing Marines, Luffy didn't give chase. Let them go. He looked to the other side of the cliff behind him, which was the side of the 2,000 prisoners and the Straw Hat Pirates. Luffy asked Yishao to use the fruit of gravity to send these 2,000 people over. This is for a smile. No difficulty at all. I saw a smile and took a step forward. The gravity fruit was activated in his hand. Countless rocks began to float, and a stone bridge was rebuilt on top of the magma. Everyone stepped on the stone bridge to the prison on the 2nd floor. As Luffy thought, the number of prisoners on the 2nd floor began to increase. More than 5,000 people were imprisoned here, more than 5,000 people. This number is almost double the sum of 3, 4, and 5 floors of prisons. Magellan lost. Marines throw away their armor. No one can stop Luffy from pushing the big prison under the sea. After the 2nd floor was liberated, everyone brought their troops to the 1st floor. People here. There are more than 13,000, although the level of strength is uneven. But it is also a force that cannot be underestimated. Luffy waved his hand. All these prisoners were recruited. The 13,000 inmates also heard about the opportunity to leave Impel Down. A large number of pirates are willing to follow Luffy. They hate Marine. It's not just a day or two, now it's only up to Marine to start their revenge. Be free. All prisoners are duty-bound. 13,000 people all joined. At this time, behind Luffy, a full 20,000 prisoners have been gathered. The number of these prisoners is even more than 5,000 more than that of the Baitwan. Strong combat power has been gathered by Luffy. All of them are vicious and wanted pirates. The rewards of 20,000 people roughly add up, leaving aside Bullet, Jinbe and others. The total has exceeded 5 billion, 20,000 people marched to the port of Impel Down. It's here. Luffy directly snatched 20 warships. 20 warships carrying 20,000 villains, the horn sounded, the warships set sail, and headed straight for Marineford. Set off. Luffy's eyes sparkled brightly. Let's talk about Marineford. The war is already going on. The two sides fought inextricably. Now, a large number of Marines and pirates on both sides were killed one after another. Even the news of the death of Vice Admiral and the death of the captain of the affiliated pirate group spread. Marineford. Full of killing and cruelty. There are people making sacrifices all the time. This is the cold blood of war. There's no empathy at all. Half of the more than 50 Vice Admirals died at the scene. Half of the 43 captains of the affiliated pirate group died on the spot. This scene spread all over the world. Countless people are worried about it. Although the Whitebeard pirates were determined to win ace at the beginning. But when the battle started, they gradually realized it. Marine has laid a net against the Whitebeard pirates. 3 admirals, 50 vice admirals, more than a dozen giant vice admirals, 150,000 marines, hundreds of pacifists crushed, and more than 200 warships launched buster call-like bombing on the periphery. White group here. If it weren't for the hard support of Whitebeard, Marco, Jozu and others. I'm afraid it's already gone. Whitebeard is Whitebeard. Sengoku stands on the scaffold, looking at Whitebeard, who is fighting fiercely in the distance. At this time Whitebeard was covered in blood. Even half of the head was punched by a kainu, and the body was covered with blood. Seriously injured, he was even attacked by Kizaru. Several transparent holes have appeared on Whitebeard's body. But even Whitebeard, who was so badly injured, but still fighting against the 3 admirals with all their strength. Sengoku is quite admirable, and has been an opponent for so many years. Although Whitebeard is old, but at the end of the year, he still has this peak strength. Enough to see Whitebeard's extraordinary, that kind of people. It is hateful to stay, but it is a pity to kill. But Sengoku has no intention of killing. Anyway, must leave Whitebeard here today, to this end. He even let the 3 admirals go together. Sengoku and Garp guard the execution platform. This is how Admiral sieges Whitebeard. Akainu's face was also covered in blood, and he didn't miss a few punches from Whitebeard. The old Kizaru always hides behind Akainu, he did no harm. Aokiji is paddling, he doesn't want to bully the few with more. Actually, the reason why Whitebeard lasted so long. It's just because his opponent is only Akainu, poor Akainu. The people around are all actors, and he is the only one who is carrying the banner of Marine. Great eruption. Akainu exploded. Lava fruit full release. He punches Whitebeard. Air shock. Whitebeard's shock fruit is also activated. The fists of the two clashed together. The air wave directly spread out, resounding across the 4 fields, shattering the sky, exploding outside the sky, shattering the void, and shaking the entire sea. Because of the collision of their fists, the tsunami has been churned again. The power on the fist is constantly increasing and increasing. Akainu burst out with all his strength, and Whitebeard burst out with all his strength. It's like doing waves. Go all out. The battle situation is gradually stalemate. After all, Akainu is in peak form, coupled with strong strength. In contrast to Whitebeard, the sun is setting, the old age is here. Although stronger than Akainu, can fight for a long time. It also caused Whitebeard a serious physical loss. This time the two sides are attacking with all their strength. Still lost to Whitebeard. Bump. Whitebeard staggered back and backed away. Legs make long trenches on the ground. Then, Whitebeard grabbed his own Kong Yunki with both hands, and barely leaned on Kong Yunki's third leg, which prevented him from falling to the ground. Seeing Whitebeard being forced back by himself, Akainu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Whitebeard, you are old and useless. If you hide in New World, we may not be able to do anything to you, but unfortunately, this is Marineford. Akainu roared with murderous intent. My body is not as good as before, and now I am being ridiculed by you, a little brat. I am really in trouble. Whitebeard said coldly, clutching his wound. He didn't even have the strength to stand up. See this scene. Now is the golden opportunity to kill Whitebeard. At this point, there's no need to show mercy. Not you die. I die. Akainu gritted his teeth. Unprepared, he punched Whitebeard again. Father, you go. A hulking man stood in front of Whitebeard. He is the 3rd Captain Jozu. Those who stand in my way die. Akainu sees Jozu in the way. He directly launched a sharp attack on Jozu. Jozu is also seriously injured now. He had already been beaten to the brink of death. Now facing Marine Admiral Akainu, he is not Akainu's opponent at all. He was bombarded on the spot, but Jozu was still unrelenting. Hugging Akainu's leg, trying hard to keep Akainu in place. At the same time, he shouted loudly towards Whitebeard. Father, you are our backbone. You feel that you can't lose anything. Go, go. Jozu. Whitebeard looked at Jozu, who was embracing Akainu for himself, and he wanted to act. But excruciating pain tore at Whitebeard. Whitebeard staggered a few steps. Still fell to the ground. Squeared, get dad out of here quickly. Jozu yelled at Squeared again. Squeared, one of the captains of the 43 affiliated pirates under Whitebeard, has the title of Great Eddie Spider. Here Joe's calling for help. Squeared thought for a while, took a deep look at Akainu, and then said to Whitebeard, "Father, I will take you away." But, Jozu. Whitebeard couldn't let go of Jozu. "You are the backbone of our Whitebeard pirates, you must not lose, get out of here." Squeared said to Whitebeard. After all, Whitebeard was taken away by Squeared. "Bastard, let go." Looking at Jozu, who was hugging his leg tightly, Akainu yelled at him viciously. "Don't think about it," Jozu would not let go, "then you go to die." Akainu raised his magma fist, punched to the flesh, and hit Jozu's face with all his strength. Bang bang bang. Jozu even wants to keep Akainu. "I'm afraid it can't be done now." His entire face was covered in magma. Fiery breath filled his mouth and nose, under Akainu's attack. Jozu finally passed out, and just a second before he fainted. Jozu stared blankly. Immediately afterwards, it seemed as if he had seen something unbelievable. Far away, the Eddie Spider, who was supposed to leave the scene with Whitebeard, suddenly turned back. "Draw your own sword." A sword into Whitebeard's vitals. At the same time, accompanied by Squeared's angry voice. "Go to hell, you wolf-hearted thing." Squeared's knife made Whitebeard look at him in disbelief. "Dad." At the same time, the other captains also saw the scene in front of them. "Squeared, what are you doing?" "Daddy. Daddy, damn it, I'm fighting with you guys, Marine." To see Whitebeard in such a horrific state, everyone in the Baitwan has put life and death aside. Apart from anything else, risk your life to fight with Marine. His body was already badly damaged, and now Whitebeard was attacked again by his son Squeared. Add injury to injury. Whitebeard covered his wound, and he asked Squeared with difficulty. "Squeared, Jiao Dejao, what are you doing?" "HMPH, don't think I don't know what you're thinking, the Whitebeard pirates won't be easily destroyed by you." Squeared spoke to Whitebeard in a self-important voice. Far away, Akainu also stopped moving. The corners of his mouth were raised, revealing a triumphant smile. No doubt. The reason why Skyad has the current scene is because of his instigation. "Why should I destroy the Whitebeard pirates?" Whitebeard asked, puzzled. "Stop pretending, this time you called everyone to Marineford, isn't it just to unite with Marshal Marine to destroy our Whitebeard pirates? Newgate, I have seen through your plot." Squeared said with a serious face, after Whitebeard heard about it. He immediately understood that Squeared was being used by others. "Skyad, the Whitebeard pirates were established by me alone, others don't know, don't you even know? Do you think I have any reason to destroy us? This big family? You're being used, do you know?" For Whitebeard, no matter how heavy the burden is on him, he can treat his sons with a smile and tell them they are okay when the sky is falling. And I'm holding on to it myself, but he absolutely cannot tolerate it. The big family that I built fell apart, mutual suspicion, and finally parted ways. Immediately, Whitebeard went over the pros and cons with Squeared. It is impossible for him to destroy the pirate group he built with his own hands. Squeared also reined in the precipice, realized that he was cheated by Akainu.
He stared wide-eyed at the sincere Whitebeard in front of him. Besides, the knife that was inserted into Whitebeard's stomach by himself. What did I do? Just now, Squeared aimed specifically at Whitebeard's vitals. Therefore, Whitebeard has completely lost his fighting power. Whitebeard was the last barrier of the Whitebeard. Now this pours down the barrier. Destroyed by himself. This means that their Baituan situation is gone. No more capital to compete with Marine for the final victory. Squeared covered his head and fell into confusion. Open black lens bracket 074 close black lens bracket Baituan's life is hanging by a thread, Luffy is here. Squeared's panic was seen. Whitebeard's courage was also revealed. He didn't blame, but looked at Squeared, who blamed himself with a smile. "Stretch out your big hand. Take Squad in his arms." Whitebeard uttered the iconic line, "You're my son anyway." This moment, Squeared was moved to tears. "Wrong. I did it all wrong. Damn Marine. Damn Akainu. Actually set a trap waiting for me to jump in." Squeared firmly stood by the white group. "Anyway today. Let's live and die with the Whitebeard pirates." Squeared revives and must avenge Whitebeard's injury now. "Sakazuki, take your life." Squeared drew his sword and charged at Akainu. Jumping clown. Akainu let out a loud cry. Marine Admiral's strength showed in him. Even if Squeared is one of the 43 captains, a reward of more than 200 million Baileys is offered. But with Admiral, the difference is still far. In less than a few rounds. Knocked down by Akainu, even the Squeared reign in the brink. The defeat of their Whitebeard pirates is a foregone conclusion. Even their old man, Whitebeard, is completely powerless right now. "Whitebeard is dead, you are useless, go to hell." Akainu didn't hold back at all. Looking at Squeared, who fell to the ground, Akainu delivered the final blow. But at the moment when Akainu's fist was about to hit Skuyad, Whitebeard moved. He was seriously injured and forcibly caught Akainu's punch. Until I fall, you are absolutely not allowed to hurt my craftsman. Whitebeard said weakly, coughing blood. Old and immortal things, then take your life first. Akainu blasts Dark Hound. It hit Whitebeard hard. Whitebeard fell to the ground, already on the verge of death. Looking at the dying Whitebeard, Akainu's eyes flashed fiercely. Leader of what era? Let me kill you, an old bastard. Akainu beat the killer. Dad, Marco, Vista, and Yizang, these captains, rushed towards Whitebeard in a hurry. Crash. An ice wall stopped all the captains. The ice wall is like the banks of the Yellow River, separating Marco and other captains from Whitebeard. Who else is not Aokiji to unleash the ice wall? 43 captains also wanted to return. 8-foot Chong Guyu. Kizaru unleashes flashes of light all over the sky, shutting out all the captains of the Fukushi pirates. On sight, only Akainu and Whitebeard were left facing each other in the middle of the battle. Akainu walked up to Whitebeard and looked down at Whitebeard, who had lost his combat effectiveness. When you go to hell, you have to remember, the person who killed you today is Sakazuki. Akainu's arm has been wrapped in magma. The magma fell to the ground, making a sizzling sound. The voice just fell. Akainu raised his magma fist and slammed it at the defenseless Whitebeard. If the punch fell on Whitebeard, apparently Whitebeard was to be eradicated. Daddy, Father, get out of here. The other team leaders desperately wanted to jump over the ice wall. But even if he jumped over, it would be too late. Every fan captain was furious. Could it be? They could only look at their father helplessly. Die in front of them. No. The faces of the team leaders were full of reluctance. Every one of them is going crazy. Dad, even on the execution platform. Seeing this scene, Ace burst into tears. Next to Ace, Marshal Sengoku closed his eyes. Is the war finally coming to an end? After preparing for so long, the loss was extremely heavy. But it can be exchanged for such a result. For them, Marine is enough. From tonight, even if it is the 4 emperors, the Marine will go around when they see them. Garp, who was sitting in the 3rd admiral position, also averted his eyes. Whitebeard, has your time finally come to an end? To die in such a great battle would not be in vain as a soldier. The Shichibukai were also silent one after another. He looked in Whitebeard's direction and was silent. The strongest man in the world is about to die. It's finally coming to an end. Marineford, where blood is flowing like a river, is about to usher in the light. Not just Marineford. The same goes for the whole world watching the summit war. Some were depressed, mourning the imminent death of Whitebeard. Some people are extremely excited. These evil pirates are finally going to perish. Whitebeard. This era. The end time is coming. Akainu's fist full of magma smashed down on Whitebeard's head amidst the silence of the Marine executives, the despair of the captains, and the end of the Marineford summit war. But at this second, a mutation has happened. On the distant sea, a piercing air wave is rapidly approaching. He stepped on the sea, and the speed at which he moved even broke the air. The waves rushed to the sides. The speed is galloping. In the blink of an eye, you are on the scene of summit war, and you are in the middle of Whitebeard and Akainu. Seeing that Akainu's fist was about to smash down. Come and stop it with one hand. At the same time, AIDG. The person who came raised his other hand, which was also covered with magma. Great eruption. This person actually also used the lava fruit ability, hitting Akainu's body hard with his fist covered in magma. Akainu was caught off guard. Brutally endured this fist. Unparalleled and violent power is imposed on it, under the domination of powerful power. Akainu's head was spinning, he almost couldn't bear it, and almost lost his combat history. But even so, Akainu was still beaten and flew out. He plunged headfirst into the ruins behind him, and the fist of the magma made face-to-face contact with his face. Adding a blow with top strength. Half of Akainu's face was sunken. Under this trick, thick smoke rose from the center of the entire battlefield. A long time, the thick smoke slowly began to dissipate. One of them stood in front of Whitebeard. He was wearing a straw hat, simple and clean clothes, short black hair, and a heroic and aggressive face full of confidence. Good. Luffy has arrived on the scene. The lava fruit ability just now was released by him. He who turned on the vain vision, reproduced the desperation of the sky. And give Akainu a headshot. Swish swish swish. Blowing Marine Admiral Akainu away with one move. For a while, the eyes of everyone in Marineford. It's all about Luffy. Marine over there. Sengoku, Garp, Crane, Empress, Doflamingo, Mihawk, Moria gripping teeth, and more. They looked horrified. A strange color flashed in everyone's pupils. Why is this straw hat Luffy here? Same astonishment. And the Whitebeard pirates sighed. All the captains were desperate before, they couldn't go back to help Whitebeard. Seeing that Whitebeard is about to be murdered by Akainu, Luffy appears, and saved their father. He's Luffy the Straw Hat. This summit war is the decisive battle between our Marine and Whitebeard. Why did he, an irrelevant pirate, come in? Damn it, I almost killed Whitebeard, I almost ended this era. falling short of success. Some Marines were outraged, staring angrily at Luffy in front of him. Everyone gritted their teeth. I can't wait to tear him apart. Luffy, compared to Marines' outrage. On the side of the white group, everyone looked towards Luffy with strong gratitude. If not for him, I'm afraid Whitebeard has been killed by now. Of course they know. Luffy and their ace are sworn brothers. But they never expected it. At this critical moment, it was Luffy who appeared and rescued the scene in time. Just now, their hearts are almost entangled together. I thought, Whitebeard is really about to fall. It's this guy again. Sengoku originally thought that the overall situation was settled, but he didn't expect that at such a juncture, he came again. At the same time, Sengoku looked at Garp angrily. Garp at the moment, he was also stunned by Luffy's appearance. Luffy why is he here? Confused. Is this summit war where you can come? No matter what kind of big event you make in the first half of the Grand Line, even if you kill the celestial dragons in Sabayati Archipelago. For the sake of the overall situation, Marine may not argue with you for the time being. But what time is it now? The war is about to be settled. You also come to disrupt the situation at this critical moment. Don't want to live yet. He's here anyway. Staff Officer Crane frowned, glanced at Garp and said to himself. Oh hey, here comes a difficult guy. Seeing Luffy, Kizaru remembered the scene when he lost to Luffy last time. He has been very puzzled. Even if Luffy has a second devil fruit, this second devil fruit may be the ability to copy others. Then how did he copy all of his 8-foot Chonguyu and burst out with the same power? Luffy. On the execution stand, Ace was also delighted after meeting Luffy. Although Luffy has a reward of 2 billion, is very powerful, and has the title of the 5th Emperor in the first half, but in the final analysis, he has only one person. Although Sengoku was annoyed, he quickly calmed down. One more person is not many, one less person is not much. Since he chose to side with the Whitebeard pirates, even if he used all of Marine's power today, he would keep them here. Just when Sengoku had such an idea. Buzz buzz. There are 20 shadows shining on Marineford. On the square. 20 shadows suddenly appeared. It caught the attention of everyone in Marine. Everyone looked towards the sky. I don't know if I don't read it. 20 floating warships impressively came into view. Golden Lion. Seeing the floating warship, every Marine, even Sengoku, Garp and others changed their expressions. Golden Lion immediately came to mind. After all, only Lion Fruit has the ability, and the regiment has such a scene. Pity. This is not Lion Fruit. It's a gravitational fruit of a smile. After Luffy arrives in Marineford, 20 warships also arrived one after another. Control these warships with a smile. It landed steadily in Marineford, presented in front of everyone. Drink. As soon as they got off the boat, the prisoners on it suddenly shouted and drank one by one. Wearing a prison uniform, holding up the weapon in his hand. With arrogance and disrespect on their faces, everyone is aggressive. The voice of 20,000 people caused a sensation in the whole Marineford. Luffy stands at the forefront of 20,000 people. He looked at the Whitebeard pirates and Marine in front of him. A smile appeared on his face. Long time no see, Master Sengoku, are you in good health? Sengoku was calm when he saw Luffy before, but when he saw the tens of thousands of prisoners behind him, Sengoku's expression began to change. Why are there so many prisoners? Where did these prisoners come from? Sengoku couldn't calm down at all. Suddenly there are so many more people. There is only one possibility. Their great undersea prison has been breached. The prisoners are all set free by Luffy. You broke Impel Down, Sengoku said with a heavy tone. Good, Luffy admitted lightly. Quote. With Luffy's acknowledgement, Sengoku felt a nameless rage in his heart, and the rage was so overwhelming that he was almost bloody angry. To know. Before that, they Marine have a great situation. Seeing that they can wipe out all the Whitebeard pirates, and even kill Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world. Then suddenly Luffy appeared. Not only that, it also brought tens of thousands of prisoners from Impel Down. This great situation is directly reversed. The huge advantage of Marine disappeared after the appearance of Luffy. 4 Emperor's White Group, plus tens of thousands of prisoners. This terrifying combat power is here. Situation. It's starting to get confusing. They are Marine. In order to wipe out the Baituan, it can be said that all the elites were exhausted. It was hard to suppress them. And against the prisoner in front of him. Again, of the prisoners who can be put in Impel Down, which one is the weak one? In terms of comprehensive combat strength, they are not even weaker than the Whitebeard pirates. In terms of battle experience, they are even better than the entire Marineford Marine soldiers on the scene. Sengoku clutched his forehead. Try to calm down the angry heart now. Careless. I was careless. In order to destroy the Whitebeard pirates, 90% of the elite from Impel Down was also mobilized. So that Impel Down fell, and all the prisoners poured out. Magellan is very powerful. Of course Sengoku knows this.
But his opponent this time, it's Straw Hat Luffy. Now Luffy has been offered a reward of 2 billion. The strength has already surpassed Admiral's level. There are also his amazing abilities, and the information from Akainu Kizaru that he may be a double fruit ability user. Magellan is no match for him, and of course it is. Man proposes, God disposes. Even if he killed all the ideas of the Whitebeard pirates. Completely control by Tuan in the palm of his hand. But it can't stand the extra branches. Luffy didn't mind coming, and even joined the war with the prisoners. Looking at the hatred towards Marine, the morale of the prisoners soared. On the other hand, look at Marine. Fighting with Bai Tuan has already consumed most of the elite. All the Marine soldiers' faces were full of exhaustion. Some soldiers couldn't even lift their weapons. How to fight this? How else can you beat a prisoner in its prime? Sengoku now. It's as if you just climbed to the top of the mountain on foot, and suddenly slipped and fell into a trough. Think here. Sengoku is also a little unsteady. Anger hits the heart, and the anger shrouds. The world was spinning in my mind. I staggered a few steps, and almost fell to the ground. Marshal. Seeing Sengoku pale suddenly, some vice admirals stepped on the moonwalk and flew to the execution platform. Hold Sengoku up. Master Marshal, are you alright? Vice Admiral asked worriedly. I'm fine. Sengoku scratched his head and answered. Luffy, Garp, you really have a good grandson. Caused myself so much trouble, starting from Eni's lobby, all the way to Summit War now. The troubles brought by Luffy have kept Sengoku in a state of desperation almost all the time. Either getting yelled at by the Marijoy gang, or on the way to being yelled at. As a marshal, he lost all face, talking about Luffy. He turned around. Come to the weak Whitebeard. He stared at the gray-faced Whitebeard in front of him, who was covered in bloodline Madara. His robes were off, and half of his beard had been beaten off. Although it is extremely embarrassing now, but in his sharp eyes, Luffy also saw the demeanor of Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world. It was the first time he had seen Whitebeard. Also Whitebeard met Luffy for the first time. You're Luffy. I've heard Ace talk about you. Surrounded by many captains, Whitebeard said weakly to Luffy. Open black lens bracket 075 close black lens bracket back to the peak of Whitebeard. You're Luffy. Whitebeard looked at Luffy and continued. I didn't expect that the person who came here to rescue me was actually you. Anyway, thank you. You're welcome, I'm here for Ace, Luffy replied calmly. During the conversation, a fairy bean appeared in his hand. Luffy said to Whitebeard, eat him, not only can it cure your old diseases, but it can also restore you to your peak state in a short time. Look at the bean in Luffy's hand. Although Whitebeard was puzzled, he didn't think too much about it. Eat it right away, however, the moment he ate the Xian dough. Originally covered in fashion, his skin was torn apart, and all his wounds were actually healing quickly. Not only that, a powerful force sinks the Dantian with upright energy, piercing through the meridians of the whole body. For just a few seconds, Whitebeard is like soaking in a hot spring. His injuries healed, his physical strength recovered, and even the exhaustion caused by the previous high-intensity battle disappeared. Looking at the fist that suddenly poured into the far and constant force. Whitebeard was surprised for a moment. He looked at Luffy in front of him in astonishment and asked, what did you just eat for me? Marco, Vista and the others may not be able to see the disc. But Whitebeard knows best. Own physical strength and injuries. All restored. God. How did you do that? Even Millennium Ginseng and 10,000 years Sosareya may not be able to achieve such a rapid effect. Certainly. Shadow is certainly powerful, but Whitebeard's old disease is incurable. Although now Whitebeard's physical strength has recovered. But he has only just returned to the magnificent momentum before the Summit War. Far from being at the peak of his youth, but this is for Whitebeard now. That's enough. He Whitebeard, once again has the ability to reverse the overall situation. This is a medicine called Immortal Bean. It can heal the skin wounds on your body, and at the same time, it can restore your physical strength for a short time. It can be regarded as an extra sigh of relief. Luffy didn't tell the truth, but just briefly introduced the ability of this fairy bean. After all, if he is really telling the truth, I'm afraid these people will not accept it. Have you ever seen a person who eats a bean and instantly restores his combat power to its peak? A small bean actually has such a magical ability. It's just a fantasy. Is this just regaining a little physical strength? Whitebeard frowned. As far as the abundant strength in my body is concerned, it doesn't seem like it's just recovering a little bit of ability. But there is such an effect. Whitebeard has had enough. Great, Nameng, you've recovered. Father, you're fine. Thank you, Luffy. Everyone watched as Whitebeard regained his vitality after eating the fairy beans and stood up from the spot. The captains were very happy from the bottom of their hearts. At the same time, thank Luffy one by one. No rush, everyone has it. Buggy. Luffy greeted everyone and shouted at Buggy at the same time. Buggy shuddered all over and immediately ran to Luffy's side. What's wrong? I will arrange a task for you. You take some prisoners and send these fairy beans to every life of the Whitebeard pirates. A bag appeared in Luffy's hand, which contained a total of 5,000 fairy beans. He roughly estimated the scene. The Whitebeard pirates had a total of 15,000 people, and 2/3 of them were directly lost in this battle. Only the last 5,000 old, weak, sick and disabled people gathered together. And the remaining 5,000 people were all seriously injured. Some had broken an arm, some were lying in a pool of blood, and some were dying. War is brutal. Swordsmen meet. White knives go in, red knives go out. Fight bloody for so long, it is to rescue their companion ace from Marine's clutches. Anyway, we must also rescue these 5,000 people, although 5,000 beans is not a lot. But compared to million immortal beans, it's not that much. Now the most precious thing is the military power. None of these troops can't compete with Marine at all. Give it to me. Buggy swears that he is very happy to help Luffy. Most of the inmates now pretty much follow Buggy's lead. Buggy just waved his hand lightly. Some prisoners immediately followed him to deliver these fairy beans to the 5,000 people who were left in the White Regiment. Bean soldiers. At the moment when these 5,000 people ate the fairy beans, they almost experienced the same situation as Whitebeard. This bean. It's weird. What kind of bean is this? Why'd I have a steady stream of power in my hand? 0. I'm fully recovered from my injuries. The moment he ate the beans, the entire Baituan noticed the changes in his body, and many people became agitated. Even Marco and Beasta were horrified. They said why Dad recovered a lot after eating the beans. It turned out to be such a reason. The beans. It must be too amazing. Now, everyone in the Baituan has increased their combat power, and they have returned to their peak period. Surging power, filed out from their hands, high morale. On momentum. No loss to any Marine in front of you. It was originally because Luffy came to the scene with the prisoners. Let the Marine be covered with a layer of haze, then everyone took the bean-like thing. Followed by a second spring glow. All the people in the Baituan were soaring in momentum, soaring into the sky. The Marines are terrified. What happened? Aren't all the people in this white group seriously injured? How do they still have the strength to continue fighting? Sengoku's face darkened too. He sees. Whitebeard was already on his feet. Whitebeard appeared to have regained all of his strength, except for the tattered clothes on his body. Watching these beans that Luffy sent down, he remembered. The last time Luffy was fighting Garp, I also took that magical bean 2 or 3 times. And after that, when Garp was knocked out by Luffy, Garp was also given beans by Luffy, finished taking. Garp came back to life and was full of energy. There is no sense of fatigue from a long battle at all. Could it be? Think here. Sengoku became anxious when he looked at the highly motivated Baituan in front of him. Oops. Sengoku missed the point. Luffy has such amazing beans. Prisoners who are waiting for work at ease, the White Regiment rejuvenated. The two forces converge against their already exhausted Marine. The situation at the scene. The difference is clear. After the whole white group is cured, Luffy's eyes were on the execution platform. The man with disheveled hair, tears on his face, and handcuffs looked over. It is Ace. Ace, here I come, corpse. 076, 20,000 prisoners, join the battle.
Previously, the white group had been fighting bloody battles with Marine.
Now, it's his turn. Luffy, 20 warships, Jinbe, Crocodile, Bullet, Yishao, Green Bull and other heavyweights came behind Luffy. And after them, it is Zoro, Sanji, Nami, Usopp and a series of members of the Straw Hat Pirates. As this Marine fort, Sanji tousled his hair. It's really tragic. Usopp frowned, looking at the blood-flowing earth and muttering to himself. What a brutal war. Nami is a little uncomfortable with such a situation. Marine doesn't have much fighting power anymore. Robin looked around, and she also saw that Marine's fighting power was not much left. The fight with the Kainu was not enjoyable last time, and now I have to fight back no matter what. The green, 423, ox looks for a Kainu's trail among the ruins. Marine, it's time to settle with you, Bullet grinned and said with a wicked smile. Go together, shouted Luffy. The voice just fell. Behind him, Jinbe, Crocodile, Yishao, Bullet, Laniu and others disappeared instantly. They're heading for Marineford, under their leadership. The prisoners also brandished long knives and attacked Marine. Boom. The war is imminent. A tired Marine collided with the prisoners. The army was defeated like a mountain, in just a few breaths. The second step fell on the spot, and Marine didn't have any power to parry at all. Hold on, don't mess yourself up. A few vice admirals in the crowd trying to hold back the decadence of their Marine rout. But the prisoners attacked. It is too violent, like a stormy sea, one wave after another, overwhelming, endless, with unparalleled impact, like a spear. Pierced their Marine's solid thick shield. Crocodile took the lead. The yellow sand keeps harvesting the lives of Marines. The strength of the 7 warlords of the sea was fully displayed in his hands. Came to Marineford with Luffy. In addition to agreeing to the agreement that Crocodile will work hard for Luffy, revenge on Marine is also one of them. More importantly it is, he wanted to see how far this feast of dragons would go. While the Crocodile is running amok, suddenly, a piercing sound slashed over. Crocodile's head was torn apart, and the heads were all chopped off. Yellow sand spilled on the ground. A cloud of dust was splashed. among the marine crowd. But he saw a doflamingo wearing a flamingo costume walking out with steps that he didn't recognize. With an arrogant and domineering smile on his face, he looked at Crocodile in front of him. Old Shaw, I haven't seen you for many years, why did you get caught by marine in the desert country? The yellow sand on the ground suddenly began to condense again. Then Crocodile's head was spliced back. Raising his golden hook, Crocodile pointed at Doflamingo in front of him. HMPH, even though I was caught by marine, it's not something you can mock. Did you hurt your self-esteem, Lao Sha, you are still so stubborn? Doflamingo said with a wicked smile, I've always had this temper. Crocodile made a sudden attack, the ground condensed into a blade of sand, and he slashed towards Doflamingo. Same. Doflamingo was cut in half too, but soon. Doflamingo also recovered and came back. Old Shaw, listen to my advice, the current situation in the sea is confusing. We have no way of knowing what will happen after this summit war. I have an idea, do you want to hear it? What attention? Crocodile would ask in a cold voice. The two of us joined hands to completely control the arms situation in the underground world. What do you think? Lao Sha, I have been looking forward to your answer. Doflamingo earnestly said, who knew this word came out. Then Crocodile's bottom line was angered. Doflamingo, stop looking down on people, you want me to compromise under your command, what a fool's dream. Crocodile's attack methods suddenly began to skyrocket. After touching him and making a note, Doflamingo frowned. Although Crocodile was defeated by Luffy in the desert country. But I didn't expect to be imprisoned in Impel Down. His strength has also become stronger, certainly. The Doflamingo is no fuel-efficient lamp, either. The strength of the two is on par. After the contest is over, it is impossible to tell the winner in a short time. The other side. Gecko Moria here. Gia, come on, the more people the better. Moria frantically harvested the shadows of the marine and the prisoners. Unscrupulous, no one else. But while Gecko Moria is raging, a man was staring at him. I saw a black shadow jumping over Moria, raised his characteristic palm, 5 kilowatts right punch. This black shadow is exactly Jinbe, loaded with the power of Murloc karate. Jinbe punched the unsuspecting Moria. Gecko Moria, who is 7 warlords of the sea, was thrown backwards after being punched by Jinbe. Hit the ground hard. The huge body shakes the ground trembling. Although Gecko Moria is not as strong as before, he is also a tough character with rough skin and thick flesh. Jinbe, after seeing the person coming, his face suddenly became gloomy. I advise you, don't spoil my good deeds. A person like you deserves to be 7 warlords of the sea? Jinbe said angrily. There is no distinction between enemy and friend, regardless of life or death. Gecko Moria's actions not only angered Marine, but also angered Jinbe. They, the Whitebeard pirates, don't know how many there are. Buried at the hands of Gecko Moria's fruit abilities. He must be defeated today. Give an explanation to those 1.3 crew members who lost their shadows. Jinbe found Moria. The two fought together. Akainu also came out of the ruins. After being punched by Luffy, he felt bad all over. Simply because he is a lava fruit capable user, Luffy's great eruption did not hurt him much. But the moment Akainu jumped out, the green bull came to Akainu again. Our battle last time, it seems that it is not over yet. The green bull pointed at Akainu in front of him and said, It's you. Akainu also recognized the green bull for the first time. For the last time I ran away. Whenever he thinks of this matter, Akainu feels a dull pain. Anyway today, it is also a shame, this guy pays the price. Akainu fights the green bull again. 077, Luffy strikes. Challenge the world's #1 swordsman. The fierce battle has begun. Prisoners collide with Marine. And the restored Whitebeard pirates, they also joined the battlefield. Things started to get chaotic. Vice Admiral, Admiral, Marine's top management, the giant Vice Admiral are all desperately resisting. Even those Shichibukai who were watching from the sidelines were forced into it at this time. Crocodile versus Doflamingo. Jinbe faced Gecko Moria. Akainu got entangled with the green bull again. Not willing to be lonely, Bullet tore several Marine soldiers apart. Feeling unsatisfied, he found Marine Admiral Aokiji. Boom. Bullet punched Aokiji. Aokiji quickly opened the ice wall to block. But even the solid ice wall couldn't stop Bullet's footsteps at all. It was shattered by his punch. The reaction force is on Aokiji's body. Aokiji was forced to retreat for several steps, to know. He's Marine Admiral. The person who can push him back with a single punch is either equal in strength or superior in strength to himself. Who are you? Aokiji looked at the unfamiliar Bullet in front of him and said. Right. Aokiji doesn't know Bullet at all. More than 20 years ago, Aokiji hadn't become Admiral, but in 2008, it was the previous Marine Admiral who fought fiercely with Bullet. And 20 years later, Bullet has been locked in Impel Down. Not to mention Aokiji, even Garp and the others saw Bullet. It takes a while to remember Bullet's famous minister. The dead don't need to know my name, Bullet replied. Just one sentence. The surrounding evil spirit was released from Bullet's body in an instant. One word. Mad, Bullet puts arrogance on full display. Confront Admiral Aokiji. His offensive continued unabated. The speed is galloping. Hundreds of punches were thrown out in one go. What an arrogant fellow. Hearing Bullet's presumptuous words, Aokiji was also a little furious. But when he catches Bullet's fist, Aokiji's complexion also began to change. He knows. The person in front of him is not simple. Let's discuss the matter. His strength is not inferior to his own at all. Although angry, the pheasant became serious. Bullet also found that a few punches did not solve Aokiji, but after he almost recruited Aokiji. Not only was he not surprised, on the contrary, I was delighted. Ace is to be rescued, after all, he is the orphan of Captain Roger. Can be strong. Bullet also will not let go. Buried in prison for more than 20 years, he, who is also a fighting madman like Green Bull, has long been suffocated. The appearance of Aokiji whet his thirst for battle. This moment, the pear blossoms are raining, Bullet's fists are like meteorites, let go of all attacks on Aokiji's body. Aokiji is also starting to work hard, let alone them. Even Buggy has found an enemy of his own. The chop fruit capable person faced Mihawk, the world's #1 swordsman. Let Hawkeye cut an attack, it can be avoided by breaking it apart. Mihawk also discovered the strangeness of the Buggy fruit. After Buggy saw Mihawk, he was so frightened that his legs went limp on the spot. That is the #1 swordsman in the world. My own bounty of 15 million Baileys. It is not worthy to carry shoes for others, very good. How did you run in front of Mihawk? Buggy wants to cry but has no tears. Fleeing in all directions. Pity, because of his peculiar devil fruit ability. Mihawk also took a rare interest. Then, he was all alone being targeted by Mihawk. Just when Mihawk's knife was about to strike Buggy's shoulder, suddenly an extra hand appeared. Luffy pulls Buggy back from the cliff. Then, the other hand Armament Haki is covered on it. Clang. The fist and the black knife collided. The airwave spread and flew out. Seeing Luffy's appearance, Buggy seemed to see a life-saving straw. Hugging directly to Luffy's thigh. Thank you so much for saving Luffy. Mihawk looked up, and after seeing clearly that it was Luffy, respond to you. Luffy kicked away Buggy who was holding his leg. You know me. What, you forgot about the sea restaurant in East Blue? Mihawk dragged the black knife and said, sea restaurant in East Blue? Luffy came back to himself. There is indeed such a thing. At that time, Zoro took the initiative to challenge Mihawk, and wanted to follow in the footsteps of Mihawk, the world's #1 swordsman. But, at the time of the East Blue chapter, Luffy hadn't come to this world yet. The previous place is just relying on the original work, and the group recalls a little bit. Let me try it out. Recently, you, the supernova who stirred up the bloody storm on the Grand Line and was offered a reward of 2 billion by the Marine, how powerful is it? Mihawk raised the black knife in his hand, pointed at Luffy, and said with fighting intent in his eyes. Being able to compete with the world's #1 swordsman is not a waste of time. I hope that my small skills can be admired by you. Face the challenge of Mihawk. Not only did Luffy not refuse, but she even accepted it completely. He stamped his foot on the ground. The ground shook, and an unknown marine saber rose into the air. Luffy grabbed the plain long knife, and Armament Haki covered it. Please. Good. Mihawk raised the knife and swung it out together. The sword energy was released from the black knife. The speed is so fast that there is no shadow. In an instant, he came to Luffy. Luffy's side. Chi brushed past him. Immediately afterwards, Luffy also made the same action as Mihawk. Swing out a knife. The extremely sharp sword glow also came from Luffy's hands. Mihawk sliced through the sword energy with one blow. Although his face was calm, there was a strange color in his eyes. Are you also a swordsman? Don't say anything else. 160 With regard to Luffy's knife, he is fully responsible for the word, sword hero. But soon, Mihawk wondered again. Luffy is obviously not a swordsman, he is a strong physique. Then why? His sword skills are so sharp. It's not even weaker than the knife he used just now. You can guess. Luffy answered calmly. Interesting. The corner of Mihawk's mouth smiled for the first time, a rare smile for the indifferent him, but it also seemed that he was not a wooden man. He took the initiative to attack Luffy. All of a sudden, the two sides faced each other with swords, and the offensive continued to rise. Waves of sword energy were released from the hands of the two of them. Because the release of sword energy is too violent. It even affected the surrounding marines and prisoners. Lots of people make room for Luffy and Mihawk, but when I saw Luffy and Mihawk fighting each other with swordsmanship, they were inseparable. Many people gasped. Who is Hawkeye? That is the world's #1 swordsman. It is famous all over the world and spread all over the world. He is recognized as the world's #1 swordsman. Never thought of it. This Straw Hat Luffy, who was offered a reward of 2 billion by Marine, only has strong physical skills, and even his sword skills are unparalleled. Fighting Mihawk evenly, countless Marines, prisoners, and members of the Whitebeard pirates opened their mouths. Looking at all this in disbelief. 078. The world's #1 swordsman is defeated. Between Luffy and Hawkeye, more than 300 rounds have passed. All the time. Unless there are people of equal strength, such as Shanks and Whitebeard, it is rare to be able to fight Hawkeye for 300 rounds. Master tricks. The winner can be determined in seconds. Even Mihawk can be very egotistical. Even the foil beasta of the Whitebeard pirates came forward. He is also sure to take him down within 300 rounds. But now, own strength, not enough to see in front of Luffy. If Luffy uses physical skills, and his rubber fruit and all other powers, that's all. Since these 300 rounds, Luffy has been competing with himself in swordsmanship. There is no ability to use other aspects at all. Looking at this scene. Many Marines and pirates were taken aback. Even Vista, who is also a swordsman, couldn't help squinting his eyes. He's been watching the fierce battle between Luffy and Mihawk all the time. Although I don't want to admit it, but I have to say. Mihawk's kendo attainments are definitely above his own. But Luffy and Mihawk were evenly matched. Beasta is not calm anymore. His goal was to be the #1 swordsman in the world. Now suddenly Luffy appears in the way. Isn't he getting farther and farther away from the throne of the world's #1 swordsman? Mihawk, this way. When you were in the restaurant on the sea, you didn't seem to be a swordsman. He was really very puzzled. It's fine if Luffy's bounty is raised to this high. How long has it been since the time at the restaurant on the sea? It's only less than half a year. Luffy's growth in swordsmanship actually caught up with the practice of most of my life. Half a year. Rampage lift up. With the facts before his eyes, Mihawk couldn't help but believe it. He was very upset. It's a little sour, haven't you noticed it yet? Luffy asked. Perceived what? Mihawk heard this sentence, thought for a while and asked back. The moves I used are exactly the same as yours. Luffy said. As soon as this word came out, Mihawk paused for a moment. In fact, Mihawk has already noticed it, between these 300 rounds. Luffy has been using the same tricks as him. The same attack method, the same fierce means. Is he copying his moves? Mihawk doesn't know that Luffy is a multi-fruit capable person. In his impression, Luffy is just a rubber fruit capable person. So he also misunderstood. In a short period of time, Luffy has caught up with himself in kendo attainments. And used swordsmanship to compete with yourself, across the sea for a long time. It took a long time to become the world's #1 swordsman. I have seen many geniuses in kendo, but say it bluntly. Luffy is the most outstanding one of these geniuses he has seen. Perhaps, genius is no longer enough to show his behavior. He is simply a monster. Proper monster. Mihawk also had to give Luffy admiration. Today's achievement can be achieved in half a year. Rare and unheard of in ancient times. Now I heard Luffy say that. Mihawk frowned. Can you tell me what's going on here? You tell me to say it, don't I lose face? Want to know, beat me. Luffy hooked Mihawk. Mihawk chuckled again. This was the second time he was amused by Luffy. He was interested for a while, and he continued. Stop talking nonsense, Luffy, show your full strength. As you wish. Finished. Luffy started to emit steam all over his body. Second gear is on. There was a sonic boom in the air. Luffy disappeared in the blink of an eye. The fist covered in Armament Haki slammed at Mihawk. Mihawk stands ready. The black knife in his hand instantly turned into a black tornado, taking all of Luffy's attacks. Compared with the previous literary contest in kendo. When people come to fight now, it is the aesthetics of violence. The sound of huge fists colliding with swords. Like a rolling thunder, it shook the world and resounded through the sky. The surrounding Marines and prisoners were a little bit overwhelmed. Ears were rattled. Clang clang, clang clang. However, Luffy and Hawkeye at the scene turned a blind eye. It's as if I can't hear anything. The attack can't help but not slack, but even harder. New World Super First Line Master Duel. Right here in the middle of the square in Marineford. Luffy. Zoro has also been following the fight between Luffy and Mihawk. They were taught a lesson by Mihawk at the sea restaurant. Although Luffy is powerful, Zoro is still a little worried. But all the same, he is always paying attention to Mihawk's tricks. Obviously, the title of the world's #1 swordsman attracts Zoro all the time. Except Zoro. Shemale King Ivankov opened his mouth wide. The son of the dragon is so powerful. Naturally, Ivankov also saw the picture of Luffy beating Magellan before. However, although Magellan bears the title of warden, but it has never been as famous as Mihawk. Seeing that Luffy is on par with Mihawk in terms of swordsmanship, Ivankov couldn't tell how surprised he was. In a blink, Luffy went over 100 rounds with Mihawk again. Mihawk deserves to be the #1 swordsman in the world. Repeatedly forced Luffy to retreat steadily. But unfortunately, the rubber fruit that has been developed to its peak is placed here, as well as the top Conqueror's Haki and the top Marine 6 styles. What's more important is Luffy's delusional vision. This is Summit War. Luffy also discovered the magic of delusions. He doesn't necessarily have to replicate Mihawk's abilities. Copy Aokiji's move from time to time,
Copy Akainu's move from time to time, and Bullet, Crocodile, and Jinbe's Murloc Karate and so on. Luffy now. It's like an almighty king. If Mihawk is regarded as the ceiling of New World's top strength, then Luffy standing, good Jiao Jiao, in Marineford is the man stepping on the ceiling. After all, Mihawk is still not able to match Luffy with various skills emerging one after another. Another magma, another ice, and another sandstorm. Mihawk was forced back by Luffy, showing his opening. The opportunity has come. Rubber fire pistol. Luffy jumped at the chance. His arms suddenly spread out behind him. Immediately afterwards, suddenly, raging fire burst out from his arm. Surrounded by fire, Luffy punched Mihawk hard. Boom. This moment, the whole Marineford is seething. Hawkeye Mihawk backed away. Fell to the ground and was scared. It looks so embarrassing. The black knives in his hands also fell out. Hovered a few times in the sky, drawing a parabola. Then insert it on the ground. The world's #1 swordsman. Lost. Open black lens bracket 079 close black lens bracket pinch the queen's perfume femur. The moment Mihawk lost, the whole scene became a sensation. If it is said that Luffy and Mihawk competed equally in swordsmanship before, it caused a storm in everyone's heart. Well now, the moment when he defeated the world's #1 swordsman. Luffy is pushing this wave to its climax. I really didn't expect it. As the world's #1 swordsman, Mihawk, whose strength is already comparable to Admirals, will lose. This is the target that swordsmen all over the world want to surpass. Marines and pirates, prisoners and those watching this live broadcast. Almost unbelievable, especially those who are strong in kendo, such as Zoro, and others such as Beasta. They looked at Luffy in shock. Good guy. Luffy has now accomplished their lifelong goal, defeating the world's #1 swordsman. Luffy, you're stronger again. Zoro said to himself. This straw hat Luffy is actually so powerful. Vista also looked up to Luffy. The Marines are also whispering there. It is rumored that Luffy beat the Marine Admiral, and now it seems that they really lived up to their reputation. This is him who is less than 20 years old. He is about to have the status of the 5th Emperor. Future achievements. Unlimited. Defeated Hawkeye. 430 Luffy runs straight in the direction of the scaffold. However, there are no 2 steps in the past. An unexpected visitor stops Luffy. She has smooth black hair, wearing a koi robe, revealing her white legs, stepping on high heels, with a haughty look on her face. Ice muscles and jade bones, cold and gorgeous, snow-wrapped jade buds, beautiful and unparalleled. It is Boa Hancock who holds the title of Pirate Queen. In the original book, Boa Hancock is obsessed with Luffy. Day and night, I want to give birth to monkeys for Luffy. As long as Luffy encounters injustice, she will stand up immediately. To this end, there is also a special theatrical version that brings Luffy and the Empress together. Even in Summit War, Hancock always thinks about Luffy, whether it's for him to fight on the top or take him into Impel Down. Even after that, he also secretly took a key and gave it to Luffy. Concerned about every detail. Pity. Luffy now. But there is no such thing as being shot by a Shichibukai bear and flying into Kasnake Island in the Sabayati archipelago. Although I missed a lot of Shongyun scenes. But Luffy had to make a point. Sorry. It doesn't matter whether it's Kizaru or Heifei. They are not qualified to shoot themselves flying. Although the bridge section of the daughter country is missing. But it has no effect on Luffy. Hancock is certainly beautiful, otherwise why would she be called a queen? But Nami and Robin on his own boat are not much different at all. In fact, the beauty of women has reached the peak level. There is simply no comparison between which is stronger and which is weaker. I've been too busy lately. Since Eni's lobby, Luffy has been preparing for Summit War, and has no time to take care of her children. He has never properly attacked the second daughter. Think about it after Summit War. Find an appropriate opportunity. Then, wait, stop. I seem to have revealed some incredible information. In general, Luffy's idea is very simple. If there is no Empress, there will be no Empress. One more is not much. A lot less. It's not a big deal. There is no woman in my heart, but I draw my sword to be a god of nature. Let this concubine come and experience the strength of you, an unprecedented supernova with a reward of 2 billion. For Luffy, a man with a great reputation in the sea, Hancock is naturally interested in competing with him. She brushed her hair and said, "Do not know why. The moment I saw Luffy. Inexplicably, she had a different kind of favor. It seems that other men are not pleasing to the eye. But when it comes to Luffy, he is much more pleasing to the eye. Totally different from other men, Afa. However, after the Pirate Empress finished saying this, but to his surprise, Luffy remained motionless in place. Just look at yourself so straightforwardly. Are you attracted by your looks? Ah, it was just like any other man. The Empress also put away her favor. She went on to say, my concubine is asking you something. Did you hear me? Luffy came to his senses now. What did you just say? Don't worry, I'm thinking about how to attack the second daughter on the boat, and I'm a little distracted. Can you say it again? This sentence is the conscience of heaven and earth. Luffy wasn't lying. For a moment, He was really thinking about how to find an opportunity to attack Robin and Nami after the Summit War was over. You are quite arrogant. Hancock's face darkened and became cold. Perfume Femur. Hancock suddenly jumped up and kicked Luffy with a flying kick. Perfume Femur packs her sweet fruit punch. Once hit, there will be a risk of petrification. But Luffy caught her attack with one hand. He pinched it by the way. Feel good, rogue. How could Hancock not notice Luffy's small movements? He raised his leg and kicked again. Luffy blocked them all again. All are blocked by hand. Hancock flew into a rage. She jumped up. Pink light shines on both hands, and the sweet fruit ability is activated. Marrow Marrow Mellow. It's too late to say it. A wave of pink air blasted towards Luffy overwhelmingly. This is a loving ray of sweet fruit. Once it is hit, the consequences will be disastrous. Watch Hancock pull off this Marrow Marrow Mellow. Luffy was still thinking about it. Do you want to pick up his Marrow Marrow Mellow just like in the chapter of Daughter Country? Maybe there will be unexpected effects. But think about it. Luffy is done again. This Marrow Marrow Mellow is powerful though. But there are three kinds of people who cannot be petrified. One is a man without desire, like the original Luffy. The second type is someone who is stronger than Hancock. The third type is people with strong willpower. It is impossible without desire. Now Luffy is still thinking about how to attack Robin and the others. You can't get past the first one. Luffy avoids Marrow Marrow Mellow. Slave Arrow. A heart shape suddenly appeared on the finger, and Hancock made a bow. Followed by an attack like a hail of bullets. Launched towards Luffy. Open black lens bracket 080 close black lens bracket 7 Warlords of the Sea lost 2 games in a row. Face the overwhelming Slave Arrow. Luffy dodges with ease. But at this moment, Hancock suddenly disappeared in place, like a ghost, came behind Luffy. Perfume Femur. She launched a lightning fast sneak attack. Hancock is very fast. Good. She uses Slave Arrow as bait to keep Luffy in place. This sneak attack. This is her next move. If it was someone else, there would be no time to react at all. But his opponent is Luffy. This trick doesn't work against Luffy at all. Luffy just turned around, caught her Perfume Femur again. And this time, Luffy hasn't let go yet. He also took a step back. The Empress was split open by a horse. Whether it's the posture or the straight line, the scene is a bit embarrassing. People around saw the Pirate Queen challenging Luffy. Also have vacated the space one after another. But they also happened to see this embarrassing scene. For a while, most of the Marines and pirates look straight. The reason why Hancock can be called the Empress is partly because of her strength, and partly because of her beauty. Otherwise Hancock wouldn't be overconfident. I often talk about how beautiful my concubine is. It's rare to see the female emperor's one-word horse nowadays. While many people were staring dumbfounded, in addition to showing their piggy faces, those who went too far even took out their camera phones to take pictures of this scene. Not to mention, now this picture, spread all over the world. No doubt, looking at the embarrassing Empress Yizzy Ma. After today, the Pirate Queen will be talked about by everyone in the sea. It is one of the main points of chatting after a meal for countless people. You, let go. The Empress scolded angrily. She also saw the gazes of everyone around her, and the camera phone bug that was spreading images all over the world. Summit War himself was made into a split horse by his legs. This makes her have no face to gain a foothold in the sea in the future. It is said that the heart of a woman is the most vicious. I know it. You actually wanted to sneak attack me while I was not prepared. Now we are only one step away from you, and you were caught by me. You said that if I hit you with a punch, you how to hide. Luffy raised his fist and said, there is no sneak attack without a successful sneak attack. Let go quickly, or I will make you look good. Watching Luffy grab his leg, Hancock said viciously. Oh, how do you make me look good? Luffy said calmly. A word of advice, don't go too far. The Empress gritted her teeth. Hear this sentence. Luffy's face also turned cold, and he exerted force on his wrist. Hancock suddenly felt a sharp pain in his leg. Luffy said coldly. Others know that you are the Pirate Empress, so they may give you 3-point noodles, but I'm sorry, your 3-point noodles have nothing to do with me at all. Say it. Luffy kicked up Hancock's body. He has no sympathy. Hancock was inevitable. He got kicked by Luffy firmly. She gets kicked out by Luffy. It took a few rolls before it stopped. She doesn't have the haughty attitude of the Pirate Empress before. Extremely embarrassing. You. Getting up from the ground, Hancock pointed at Luffy out of breath. How many years? Hancock hasn't been kicked by others for many years. She was furious. Slave Arrow. Repeat the same trick, trying to put Luffy to death. Boa Hancock's strength is still there. Whether it's strength, speed, and the sweet fruits of development. She deserves her current status as 7 Warlords of the Sea. But Luffy is someone who can kill even Hawkeye. A Pirate Empress is no match for him at all. Rubber machine gun. Feeling down. Luffy's fist attack was extraordinarily violent. Boa Hancock was driven back by Luffy. At last. Punch in the past. Hancock was overwhelmed. As the Queen of Pirates, she also lost to Luffy in 7 Warlords of the Sea today. For a while, pick 2 Shichibukai in a row. Luffy's strength has reached its peak. Seeing his means, remembering how he defeated Moria, the Golden Lion, and their Marine Admiral before. 0. Seeking flowers. Many people lamented that the 2 billion Baileys were not obtained by chance. Hawkeye and the Empress lost to him. This is a well-deserved fact. Good. On the side of the Whitebeard pirates, Marco, Vista, and even Jozu, who had regained his combat effectiveness, couldn't help applauding. Luffy not only brought hope to their white group. It brought them the dawn of dawn. Now pick 2 Shichibukai in a row. Greatly increased the morale of their Whitebeard pirates and prisoners. Under the leadership of the captains, all the members of the Whitebeard pirates have high fighting spirit and high morale. Everyone goes through life and death, regardless of their own life and death. After seeing Luffy's strength, the prisoners also became excited. Like savages, everyone raised their weapons and shouted loudly. Especially seeing the Whitebeard pirates risk their lives like this. They were also mobilized, but it must not be compared to the crew of the Whitebeard pirates. The prisoners also put their own lives on the line. The crew of the White Regiment and the prisoners of Impel Down rallied in this moment. Launch an unprecedented total attack on Marine. On the other hand, look at Marine. He was weak and weak before, and he didn't have the high-spirited appearance at the beginning. And a long fight. Even Iron Man can't stand it. The line of defense is broken. Like a flood, the embankment collapsed. At the same time, Admiral, Vice Admiral, Shichibukai were defeated, and those who were pinned were pinned. No one can stand up to maintain the situation. And the white group over there. They also have captains like Marco, Vista, Jozu, and Yizang who have never done anything. Originally well-prepared Marine. There is not much combat power left. It's their turn to go. Luffy stood at the forefront of everyone. He looked towards the execution platform. Just bring the ace out. This battle is all right.